All right, welcome everybody to Thursday Night Forum. We are back. What's going on? The summer is here. I don't know what's going on. There's not a lot of news on the ground, but we'll chat about what's out there tonight and have a little bit of a chin wag. Stan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thanks. Not bad at all.
All right, and Lawrence, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, Gary might be joining us a little bit later. We'll see what happens. And Tony is occupied with a podcast in other regions. So there you go. All right, Stan, what's the news on the ground?
Well, we've got the Euros coming up, and we've got the selections for the Euros have already been revealed. We've got Man City wanting to sue the Premier League in a couple of weeks' time, and I suppose we've got transfer speculations.
Yeah. All right, let's have a little bit of a laugh at Madison. Can we do that, Stan? You know, the bullseye guy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good start to the season, but it tailed off very quickly after his injury.
Yep.
Kind of a little bit like Gabriel Jesus, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we live in a glass. We live in a glass house, right? We can't throw too many stones without expecting some thrown back at us until we do certain things. You know what I mean? But yeah, what's his name? James Madison, right? You know, Spurs pulled off that transfer, got him from Leicester without a lot of fuss last summer. They started really well. They were going to win the league after 10 games. They had something like 26 points from 30. And they went backwards after that.
It's a little bit like when you start a new job, you know. You wake up on your first day, you wake up before even your alarm goes off. You know, you're one of the first to be in the office. You've got your best suit on. Your shoes are polished. But after a couple of weeks, do you know what I mean? You're sat at the back and you're on solitaire. You know what I mean? Not giving a fuck and coming back from lunch 20 minutes late. Going to the toilet for half an hour. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them, isn't it? Just wears off.
Yeah, and then you tell yourself, well, you figure out how much you're getting paid for the amount of time you're in the loo. Right?
Yeah.
As well.
It turns out to be quite a princely sum. No matter what it does for me, because I'm in there quite a lot.
Yeah, it's quantity over quality, right? So, James Madison. Who else joined him? Harry Maguire.
The other thing is, I would say as well about Madison, I think as well that he happens to play in a position that where it comes to the players available to play for England, we're quite bountiful in that area, and there are players that do shade ahead of him. You know, you got players by the likes of Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden. You got our Declan Rice, which is going to be a mainstay in that midfield, the position that he plays. So there's only so many that you can fit in, and do you know what I mean? He's just not quite up to that level for what's available. I mean, he's not on a Bellingham level. He's not on a Foden level. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're at the stage where we probably might have to play Phil Foden out of position slightly. Probably have to play him on the left if we can't put him in the middle. And that's just the way it is at the moment. You know, you've got to be very, very good to get into the England midfield.
Yeah, and
okay to get into the defence.
Yeah, just about okay, because you got you got Walker, you got Stones, the Man City contingent. You've got a couple of defenders in there. But what strikes me as well is the new formation where it's a 4-4-3-3 is the new formation in vogue. So when they're saying midfielders, there's actually a very short list of midfielders because, wingers can become your already attacking players. Remember the days of old, your midfielders would be in a 4-4-2 situation. We'd have a lot more midfielders going
Yeah,
to.
you'd have your two
2000.
wingers, but in the middle, you'd probably have someone that was more adept to the defensive style of the game, and maybe the other one who was more adept in the forward sort of thinking part of the game.
Yeah. Perfect example being Gilberto and Vieira back in the day in our Invincible side.
Vieira and Petit as well.
Vieira and Petit.
Vieira was more of a box-to-box. He wasn't solely defensive. We were lucky in that respect that he could do the tackling, the dirty work of the game, but he could also get up the other end of the field and help out there as well.
Yeah, and look, I had a look at this England side as well. England team that's been picked for the Euros, and a couple of names jumped out. You know, Ivan Toney's on the plane. I think Ollie Watkins is there. Eze is going. A couple of players from Crystal Palace have made it. I know Alonso and I have been sweet on Mark Gay as well, a central defender. He's a Crystal Palace player. So, you know, Crystal Palace turned the fortunes around with this new manager that they brought in. So they've got quite a few players that could be moving this summer as well.
I think it's a difficult one when you're picking the England squad, because you can have for example, a player like Jordan Henderson, who's been a mainstay really under the England manager Gareth Southgate, but hasn't been picked for the squad because he hasn't played a lot of competitive games. He went out to Saudi Arabia for quite a while, then he's just moved to Ajax, and it's not deemed that he's playing at a competitive level. But then you look at someone like Aaron Ramsdale, who is a good goalkeeper, but last season he had two games in the league. Mm-hmm. So there was an argument to say, well, how do you pick him when he's not been able to show his form, even though historically he's been good, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at a player like old Slabhead at Man United, who seems to be picked no matter what form he's in. I've seen him being picked for England when he's in absolute toilet form, and now that we've actually got to the competition, he's not even in the squad. Yeah. So it's hard to say how the England manager makes his decisions, but I'm glad that he's made some that he's made. I'm glad that we haven't got Jordan Henderson in there. I think his time is done. As loyal as it's been, his time is done.
But don't you see that, Stan? Don't you see that, Stan, a lot with managers and players who are out of favor with their club, and they keep the international managers keep faith with them? I remember, not a great example, but I remember Jack Charlton in the Ireland setup keeping faith with Mick McCarthy when he wasn't playing, keeping faith with other players. Jurgen Klopp and Southgate, when it comes to Henderson, he's kept faith with them. Slabhead too.
I think there's a bit of a difference though when it comes to Ireland, and I don't mean to say this disparagingly, but there's fewer players to pick from because there are fewer players playing at a certain level. So if you want to drop a mainstay and you're going to give maybe somebody else a chance, they could be coming from a lower league. They could be. Do you know what I'm getting at? That, and it's a gamble. It could be considered a gamble. Whereas with the England setup, there's an argument to say, well, do you continue to pick mainstays like Jordan Henderson and Slabhead, or do you pick your team every time based on the form?
Mm-hmm. And and I think Southgate has shown a little bit of each, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Yeah, because he's brought in Ivan Toney, he's brought in Eze, he's brought Ollie Watkins. I think Ollie Watkins is in there, and a couple of other players.
Another player in there, Adam Wharton.
I've never even heard of him.
I'd never even heard of him. He had his first game the other day, and I only saw a couple of bits of it because I was working, and he's obviously done enough in one appearance to be picked for the squad.
Well, Lawrence looks like you might know who this player is. Lawrence?
Yeah, they signed him from Bolton in the winter transfer window.
Who did?
Palace signed Adam Wharton from Bolton.
Wow. So I think
How old is he? Is he older than 25, younger than 25? I don't know much about him at all.
Younger, I think he's 22, 23.
He's getting good reviews though. I didn't really watch the game, but I heard a lot of people looking at the talk sports and that. Everyone sort of like praising this guy.
And look, that's another Crystal Palace player that Messner, I think that manager has done some. Plasner has done some good things there with the 8-10 games that he had at the end of the season, taken over from Roy Hodgson, you know. And I think Southgate has probably been to Crystal Palace a couple of times now to see these players. That's three Crystal Palace players going to the Euros, and that's probably unheard of since maybe the time when Ian Wright was a Crystal Palace player.
I don't even think even Ian Wright got a call up until he got to Arsenal.
Maybe you're right about that. You know, so call-ups, international call-ups, and being picked on the. I think it's still a provisional squad, right? Or is that the final squad now in?
No, I think that's the final squad now, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, they've all been named, even though some of them who haven't made the final cut are still hanging around. Madison's gone home, but some of them are still hanging around. But I think this is the formal. I think this is the actual formal squad now. So goalkeepers, right. We've got Dean Henderson from Crystal Palace, Jordan Pickford, and Aaron Ramsdale, which I don't know too much. That sounds okay. I suppose maybe somebody else didn't get the nod ahead of Henderson, like Trafford, maybe. And then you look at the defenders. You've got Lewis Dunk, who I'm surprised about because when he last played for England, I didn't think he looked all that.
Yeah.
Joe Gomez, Mark Gay, and another one that I really don't know much about, which is Ezri Konsa from Aston Villa.
Yeah.
But then a player like Luke Shaw, he literally is default for left back, isn't he? Because there doesn't appear to be anybody else that can be trusted to play in that position.
Well, if you're a left-footed player, you seem to get into a lot of teams if you're a left-footed player of any kind of decent standard, you know. Not that maybe. Well, I'm not hugely tweaked about it, but what do you think about England's chances this summer, Stan?
I think it's probably one of the best squads that we've had for a while now. There's a lot of bright players in there. Another one, Kobe Mainoo, came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Only really his first couple of caps now with the England side, and he's done enough to get a call up ahead of somebody like a Jordan Henderson.
All right, we do have a visitor. All right, we do have a visitor, so we will take questions. You know, a lot of things going on the ground, so in order to keep the podcast moving, this is a Manchester United coaching issue and transfers. What's going on about Man United coaching issue and transfers? And that's probably related to Ten Hag, and there's no news right now on Ten Hag, Stan.
It's a bit out of order, isn't it? If I was Ten Hag, I'd be like, listen, you've got to let me know what's going on. I've got a life to live. Do you know what I mean? If you don't want me, I've got to go and get a job somewhere else.
Packing my bags or not, you know what I mean? I think you have to plant your flag in the ground and say you're going to go with this manager or not, you know? And I think they should. He's delivered a couple of trophies now. And the next step for them is to sort out what's going on with their culture and the players in the dressing room and start moving players on. We've had this at Arsenal. Move players on that need to get moved on. You identify them, you weed them out, and it's going to take 6, 7, 8 transfer windows, the same way it took for Arsenal to jump from winning FA Cups, which is what we were doing, to challenging in the Premier League and Europe.
Yeah,
right.
Just looking at this lineup though, it's quite sneaky because the one that I'm looking at for midfielders, I've got Trent Alexander-Arnold in there, and that's pretty cute because he can also play in defence as well if needed.
Yeah.
And there could be some games that you could have a Carl Walker playing in some games, and maybe other games you prefer a Trent Alexander-Arnold and use him in this inverted role, which is involved the last couple of seasons. So that's pretty cute. I like the way that they've done that.
I'll be interested to see if Foden comes forward as well in this tournament. You know.
But I mean, another surprise. Not a surprise. I think it's deserved, but I'm surprised that Gareth Southgate, who seems to be in the past loath for picking people in form, Anthony Gordon from Newcastle.
Yes, he did make it. So there's a lot of creative players. You're saying you're right there, Stan. And the reason why Maddison did not make it is because of the likes of Anthony Gordon, Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, Eze. So Maddison, I think rightly so, doesn't make the cut.
Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
And Cole Gallagher. Conor Gallagher and Cole Palmer both made the team.
Carlton Palmer, yeah. Yeah. Or Cole Palmer?
Yeah, Cole Palmer.
I said Carl.
Carlton Palmer used to play for West Ham.
That's a Freudian slip there. Lawrence, what are your thoughts going to this question from one side? What's going on by Man United? Coaching issue and transfers, Lawrence.
I'm not really bothered about what's going on at Man United. I mean, they are the banter club at the moment. I mean, we used to be the banter club, but now it's them. I honestly don't know whether you get rid of Ten Hag or not, because he's won them 2 trophies in 2 seasons.
Yeah, which
most clubs would give their right arm for.
Yeah, and other right parts. Yeah.
As for Rashford, who knows? I mean, people have been texting me. What?
Hold on, Lawrence. I have a pen.
Rashford.
Lawrence, I have a pen. Be very careful.
The pen only comes out if you talk about Rashford coming to Arsenal. Then the pen comes out, and then you go on the list.
No, I've just had people texting me saying that Arteta has had talks with Rashford. I don't believe it for 1 second. But we're in the silly season when the summer transfer window starts up, because I'm now hearing Sesko is talking with Chelsea. So I've been down this road. I've been down this road before. Remember a certain Ukrainian who said Arsenal were the only club for him, and look where he ended up.
I'm taking a choice in it. I think Modric was like put into an envelope and posted to Chelsea. I don't think he had a choice. It was more about who's going to pay us more money. That's where you're going to go.
Yeah. It was like, pack your bags or go to Chelsea. The motherland.
Let me ask you a question, right? If you're Benjamin Sesko, and you want to come to the Premier League, and obviously, the big competition is the Champions League, and you've got Arsenal interested in you and Chelsea, the only reason you're going to go to Chelsea, the only reason is if they're going to pay you, a lot more than what Arsenal will. Because footballing wise, why would you go there? If you compare the 2 clubs, one's trending upwards right now, which is us. The other one is trending downwards in a big way. It's just like Man United. Why would you go to Man United now? Unless no one else was coming in for you, but Man United did, then you'd probably make that move. But if you had a choice, why would you go? You're not playing Champions League. To answer Lawrence's question about winning 2, Ten Hag winning 2 trophies, and Lawrence is right. That is what fans want, and you would rip somebody's right arm off for. But the game has changed so much that the ownership look at it totally different. They look at it like, well, he's won 2 cups, and he's won us financially maybe about £3.5 million. But he couldn't qualify us for the Champions League, and that's where the money is. Meanwhile, this manager's asking us to spend 80 million on players like Anthony, but he's not bringing the money back in. And I know Lawrence is right. We should be looking at just the cups, 2 shiny trophies, that you have in your cabinet. But the owners don't look at it like that. They look at them. I think they look at the money and the placing to get into the Champions League, and he's stuffed them now financially for another season.
And that's what makes it difficult. The PR side of it at Manchester United makes it difficult because the fans' currency will be trophies. The fans will rate the club. James Fernandez, good to have you back. Good good to see old friends coming back. And
Welcome back, James.
yeah, even if you do support that a lot, we forgive you. Maybe you can repent and recant your sins. But anyway, now we have the, what do you call it? What did they call it? The power shift. Yeah, the power has shifted back. That's
I
what
was
it
going
was.
to say the power of Christ compels you.
Yes. But Stan, it's very interesting. The fans will rate the setup on the currency of trophies. As you said, Stan, the owners will rate it on the currency and cash flow that's coming into the club.
Yeah, I think that looking at Ten Hag now, I'm thinking, well, you've handicapped us. We can't now go out and buy big players because, one, it's going to be difficult to attract them because they haven't got the Champions League, and we're going to have to dig into funds that we haven't got coming in. So I think that's what the problem is there with Ten Hag. You know what I mean? They got rid of Mourinho when he got Tottenham to a final for the first time in how many years, and they got rid of him before the final.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, surely you would grit your teeth, and whatever the problem was, you'd get through it until
You're like,
you know, he's going to be your best chance of getting a trophy, right? Rather than the caretaker manager, you grit your teeth and then fire him afterwards. If the
and
problem is
Mason,
bad.
yeah. I mean, call a meeting in the conference room on Monday morning when the game is on Sunday. You know what I mean? Send an email at 5:00 on Friday. You're all required
Did you?
in the conference room Monday morning. Lawrence?
Sorry, just staying with Tottenham. Did you see that video that went viral of two Tottenham fans doing a podcast, and an Arsenal fan went on there and asked them about a player called Empty Cabernet and whether he was good enough for Tottenham? And these two mugs thought it was a real player.
Brilliant.
Empty Cabernet. And they thought it was a real player. And one of them said, I've never seen him play, but I think he'll be a great addition to the squad.
So I think it was you that posted it, or I saw it from Lawrence. So I watched it a few times. You got the two guys on the podcast, right? And the super chat comes up, and he reads it out, and it goes, "Hi guys, just wondered what you thought of the potential signing of Emity Cabernet." And the guy who's doing that, he goes, "Oh, do you want to take that one, Chris?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, it's good." He goes, "Yeah, good player, but I don't know if we're far down enough down the road to get him." And the other guy goes, "Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if I've heard of him. Who does he play for?" He goes, I can't remember, but he's good. He's good. He's like really talking like matter of factly about this guy, like, you know. And then he asked him what position the other guy goes, "What position does he play?" And it's like, but yeah, good player, but not sure how far down the road we are with negotiations. I'm like, talk about in the know.
Jeez. Yeah, that's classic.
Unbelievable. It's brilliant.
Morning, Tiger and Gunnar, all the way from Australia. It's summer up here, but in the northern hemisphere, down south, you're probably heading into winter in the southern hemisphere. And as we want to acknowledge again, James being here. Hey guys, been a while. I hope yourselves and families are safe and well. Roll on the Euros, indeed. Yeah. So listen, and a little bit we're going between Tottenham and Man United and Chelsea, but a little bit at Man United, it's going to be difficult for the ownership now. It's going to be unpopular, whatever they do. You know, it'll be unpopular to stay 8th place in the league, worst ever season, but having won a trophy. So Man United have some difficult decisions to make, but it's not.
I've also heard that there's talks about Fernandes leaving. I mean, no matter what we think of him as opposition fans, me personally, I think the geezer could eat an apple for a letterbox, but that's another story. But, you know, from United's side of it, he's probably one of their best footballers, and apparently there's talks about him leaving.
He is their most gifted player for sure, and there has been a lot of glitter about his season as well. He's not exactly carried the team on his shoulders, but he has shown his quality in some time at some points in the season. Going back to Chelsea, you mentioned Chelsea plateauing, maybe going nowhere, Stan. Do you think Pochettino was starting to get to grips with that club toward the end of the season? They lifted themselves up from mid-table to what, 6th or 7th?
I got a feeling though for a while that Pochettino himself never really was really kind of like, he was like half in, half out. His whole attitude about being a Chelsea manager, to me, it was kind of like, I've been offered this job and there's nothing really else about. There's nothing else really happening. I don't have to, I don't have to move house or anything. Yeah, I'll take it. You know what I mean? See what else comes. You take the job every day, like he's on like recruitment websites looking for any other positions that are coming in. You know what I mean?
Another one of those guys that, like you said at the start, you start a new job, you're enthusiastic, then you start playing solitaire and you start going to the bathroom 5 times a day rather than 2 times a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Washing your hands, being meticulous.
Sitting on the bog reading Arseblog. I mean, so I've heard.
Yeah.
Just in case my manager's watching.
Lawrence, what was your thoughts on Chelsea toward the end of the season?
Well, they were on a nice little run near the end. But just like United, they were very in and out. They would have 1 good result and then 3 bad results. And you wonder whether they're going to fall foul of this
PSR
profitability and sustainability rule, because they must be near the red line as well. I mean, if they're going to investigate Man City, I assume they're going to investigate Chelsea as well, because I'm sure they've broken a few rules themselves. I don't know whether this new guy Maresca is going to be able to carry on, because there's a difference between managing Leicester and managing Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think Chelsea have got a few players they need to get rid of.
For me, I mean, here's the reason why I've gone in for the Leicester manager. Can you imagine what it must have been like when, the manager, Pochettino, had a meeting with like Todd Bowley and his director of, I can't remember what his name is. And he sat down and he looked him in the face and he said, listen, guys, I know you've gone out and spent all this money, 115 on Caicedo, and you've spent money, a high amount of money on like Enzo Fernandez. But don't get me wrong, they're good players, but they ain't worth the money that you've paid for them. Do you think they sat there and they went, this is really good feedback that our seasoned manager is telling us? Or do you think they sat there like that, not say the word, and said, okay, you can go now. As soon as he left, they looked at each other and go, who the fuck does he think he is? Cheeky fucker. Because they don't want a manager. They want a head coach, because they've got a business model where they will identify the players. Maybe go to them, the manager might say, we need a right back. They will identify the right backs and show them a list of 3 or 4. The manager's not selecting, and they're buying and saying, here you go. You've got a new tool here. You need to integrate this new tool into the team, and you need to make it work.
Yeah.
Oh, you see that player there? Next window that's coming up, we're selling that guy. Oh, but I really like this guy. He's a good motivator. He's good in the dressing room. He's good in this position. Yeah, I know, but he's a homegrown player. We're going to get loads of money from him, and it's going to help us balance the books. You've got no say in it. And Pochettino isn't that kind of personality.
Mm-hmm.
He's a person that wants to be involved in these decisions. And I think Thomas Tuchel was also the same, which is why he didn't last long. They're looking for yes men. So they've looked at what Arsenal were doing, and they think foolishly that they can copy the same model. Go out and get a young guy who's going to be grateful to be here. He's just going to be glad to be here. He's going to have Chelsea to manage, and he'll be happy to work with whatever we give him. And that's initially what did happen with Mikel Arteta, because Mikel Arteta initially with his first contract was head coach.
Yep.
What is he now? He's now manager. He's gone the other way. He's earned the trust of the board. The board are like, you tell us what you need, and if we've got the money, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, look, let's not forget.
Do you see the difference? That's the reason why they've gone for a guy from Leicester, because he's not going to be able to speak up and say his piece to Todd Bowley.
Do you think
he feels that a signing isn't right, or he doesn't want to lose that player? He's just going to go, okay, I'm just a coach. I will coach whatever you provide me with.
So do you think Pocho kicked up a little bit, or was some part Pochettino wanting to walk away from Chelsea?
I think he was very frank with them. I heard that he had a meeting. You know, you have these meetings and you talk about maybe it's like every quarter or whatever it might be. And he's just been very frank with them. Do you know what I mean? You've gone out and spent all this money on these guys and that they're not world class.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even want to pick them because they're that bad in training. I'm just being honest with you. And they're like, what? We paid 115 million. We've got him for 8 years. You've got to make it work. We've signed him for 8 years.
It's crazy, isn't it? And
that's where they are.
We were sat here this time last year talking about the merits over Declan Rice and Caicedo. You know, debating which player was going to be the best one for Arsenal to target. Well, I think it's been borne out. We took the right player.
Plus, there's environments as well, right? There are environments. Had Declan Rice had gone to Chelsea, would he be playing as good as he is now?
No.
Probably not, because of the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He just doesn't seem that kind of player who would be part of a mechanism, a machine. You know what I mean? I think Declan Rice plays a lot with his heart, and that can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing. And Arsenal they were very emotional last season, but this season just gone, we were a more calculated, cold-hearted team. Now we still
show me one Chelsea fan who would say to you, yeah, I think selling Conor Gallagher in the next window is a good thing. He's been their captain for most of the season and one of their brightest sparks, but in order to balance the books of all of the wheeling and dealing that they've done, he's on the chopping block. He's one of their own.
Yeah.
Basically. And I know that we're going to be selling some of our own, but that's because we've given them opportunities and they haven't done a Conor Gallagher. They haven't shone, right? And Will Smith-Rowe hasn't done a Conor Gallagher and made himself a mainstay in the team and had to, get himself the captain's band because he's earned it. And neither has Eddie Nketiah or Reece Nelson. So they've got to go. It's a different story.
Yeah, and look, some of those players will go this window and we will replace them with what needs to be better. Needs to be better players. They need to be able to handle more minutes. Some of them need to have that durability. The best kind of ability is a durability to be able to take minutes from other mainstays of our team, like Gabriel Magalhaes and Saliba. They cannot go another season playing 55 games. You know what I mean? We need
unless
to have.
They can.
Huh?
Unless they can, unless they're that durable, and they can, because if they're not, that Arsene Wenger used to say that, I don't know how he worked it out, but he said that when players were going into the red
Red zone.
It's like a petrol gauge, isn't it? When you're running out of petrol, he'd change them. Maybe those players weren't going into the red
zone. Yeah.
Maybe they, someone like Saka did look really tired by the end of the season. He looked like he needed a holiday, whereas Gabriel and Saliba looked like they could have had more games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, ready to go. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so Chelsea, they bought, imagine those, Stan and Lawrence. Chelsea did buy Caicedo for much more than Declan Rice, and they bought another player in midfield.
10 million more.
10 million more just for Caicedo over Rice. And who's the other player? Enzo, whatever his name is.
Fernandez.
Enzo Fernandez, another 100 million pound player.
And the team looks better when he's not in it, if you've noticed. They've had better results under Pochettino. So again, they're at the meeting, they're like, why are you not playing Enzo Fernandez? You won a World Cup. Well, we spent all that money on him. We've tied him down for 8 years. And he's like, the team plays better without him, mate. And they're like, fuck this guy. No, they've got to get rid of this guy.
I read that he's going at they're not renewing his contract.
Who's?
Enzo Fernandez, yeah.
What, you mean in 8 years' time?
That's fair. Fair point.
Here we go,
Yeah.
Mystic Meg.
Fair point. I think
That's 8
each
years
and
away.
every year we'll hear that, Lawrence. I think in the next window we'll hear another Chelsea player who is not going to get renewed because they're in the first year.
Now what they've done is as well, if you've got a player under an 8-year contract and for whatever reason they're not fitting your environment and they're on a high salary and you're trying, okay, we're open to offers, you're going to get your pants pulled down in two ways. Either because the buying club knows that you need to get rid of him, but also as well, if the player isn't going to be offered a comparable salary, they're going to do Winston Bogart.
Mm-hmm.
You're on 200 grand a week and the club wants to buy us and you're offering 130. You might think, well, you know what I mean? I've got bills to pay. I've got an 8-year contract. I don't have to go anywhere.
We did this with the likes of Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ozil. We
Cedric.
did this 6-7 years ago with players who were in their prime, and anytime we'd keep them for a season or two, they would be getting into their 30s and very difficult to move on. High wages, very difficult to move on. Elderly players with difficult resale values, and maybe not actually performing at their peak as well because they're getting paid big bags. You know what I mean? Because of their stature in the game, they were getting paid big bags and not actually earning it. And we did a full 180 under Mikel Arteta and moved all those players out.
If a club comes here and says, we can take you, we can play you every week, but we're going to have to pay you 30, 40 grand a week less, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whoever takes Eddie has got to either match his 100 grand or pay him a bit more. And you usually think that you get a little bit more when you know, at his age, you're not going to be going down. It's not like you're in your 30s and you take a drop to keep playing. You should be looking to increase. So he's going to have to, wherever he goes, it's going to be interesting to see how he fares.
Yeah. And what we want is a promoted team. We've heard a lot about teams in the bottom half of the table or teams that have just been promoted that are interested in a player like Eddie Nketiah. And like Stan said, he's getting paid quite well. He's getting Ollie Watkins money, 100,000 a week. And it may not be the easiest way to shift him, but the money coming into the Premier League for an Ipswich Town, you know, might help. Leicester City might help.
I just love the report that said Arsenal are reluctantly going to sell him. I mean, reluctant, do me a favour. I just find it unbelievable that Arsenal are reluctant to sell Eddie Nketiah. He hasn't done anything for 8 years.
But the guy that was writing out on social media on behalf of Arsenal, you should see him playing poker. You can't tell when he's bluffing.
Yeah,
he's got a great poker face. You have to write something like that.
Well, you always have to say that, right? As a selling club, you always have to say, we're reluctant, but, you know.
If you're selling a car, you're never going to refer to it as an old banger.
I have a price in my head, Lawrence and Stan. I have a price. If you meet that price, I'll be less reluctant.
When you sell a car, you don't be honest about it and go, look, I'm selling this car because it breaks down in the middle of nowhere. It fucking guzzles petrol. Did you know what I mean? It's rusty at the bottom. When I push the brakes, my foot comes through the floor. You big it up, didn't you?
Yeah. Or in the case of Eddie Nketiah, I'm selling this car because it got me to my destination 5 times last season, but then I didn't get anywhere after November in it.
One previous owner, and she was a nun. Hardly drove it. Only once on a Sunday.
So there you go, Eddie. We got to see the back of Eddie. Couple of players, Gabriel Jesus may just stay because, you know, we always talk about the option on the right side. You know, who's going to help Bukayo Saka, Lawrence, and maybe Gabriel Jesus could be that player to give us some quality on the right.
I read somewhere that Arteta is thinking about bringing Pepe back to the club as cover.
You read a lot, don't you?
Oh, I know. I've got a dull life.
Pepe's been released.
got
He's not connected to us anymore. That'd be like
I
offering
look-
him a new contract. He's no longer
I-
an Arsenal player, isn't it? He left.
I was a supporter of Pepe. I have to say I was a supporter of Pepe. He wasn't Mikel
better
Arteta's
than,
cup of
better
tea.
than Anthony.
Yeah, better than Anthony. And
Better than
nobody
Reece Nelson.
Nobody in the football world talks about Anthony the way they talked about Pepe.
I have.
Arsenal, we are gargantuan. We are gargantuan. We live rent free in everybody's heads.
But here's the
out
problem
there.
with Gabriel Jesus, right? Well, I think, and again, you have to look at how owners now look at it and the fiscal side of stuff now. How could Gabriel Jesus be back up to Saka, but earn 40 grand a week more? It doesn't make sense, does it? If you're the guy that's earning 40 grand less, you're going to be like, this guy.
It's the
He
senior
comes, you know
guy.
what I mean? This backup guy is earning like 40,000 bags more than me a week. What's going on?
Well, did you ever
So
have a
getting-
manager you didn't quite believe in, Stan? You know, it's seniority, right?
So you have to get rid of that player, or you have to quickly now improve Saka his wages to make it comparable. Because
Spencer.
it's disparable. It's like when you play FIFA, right? When you play career mode and you look at when you go down the list on the right, it tells you about the player. You have thumbs up and thumbs down. Sometimes it's contract and it's a thumbs down. It's meaning like this guy's getting paid more than me. Do you know what I mean? And he's on the bench.
Yeah.
You've got to make people happy.
But I think, Stan, you cannot pay Bukayo Saka 300 bags a week when he's 22 years old.
He's on 160 now, which is good. That's good,
Yeah.
right? And we've got him there on a good contract for that.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
he could be unsettled because if Gabriel Jesus is going to become his backup, he's on 200 a week, and that's a big disparity. Now you're upsetting the apple cart. You either have to keep Gabriel Jesus as a starter to justify it, or you have to get rid of him and bring in somebody
I always wondered
a little
I was
bit below.
wondering about-
You know,
why.
this is the reason why Kai Havertz had to work out. Kai Havertz earns the most money in our whole squad. So imagine if he didn't work out, the amount of players that are going to be like, what's going on with this guy? Again, compare his wages. Oh, Edgar Nketiah sending the police after me. But
Check over your
again,
shoulder.
you know, you got
Go,
Kai
Bill.
Havertz is on 300 a week, or 280 to 300, and
Yeah.
he doesn't work out, and he can't, and he's also going to start sitting on the bench. That is not going to work. That is going to cause problems and resentment at some point.
What? I often think the same way.
So it's good for us
What?
that it's beginning to work out. It's beginning to work out. So he's beginning to justify it. That was
Do
his
you
biggest
really
problem.
see that at any clubs? Do you see the disharmony? Do you see people disgruntled about
You don't,
wages?
you don't hear about it, do you? But I guarantee you, there's knocks on the door. Doesn't it happen in any job, right? Some guy gets
Who would,
hired. Some guy gets hired to work in your company. You find out that they're getting paid more than you, but they work less hours.
And
and you know what I mean? You're going to get pissed off.
Mikel Arteta saying, "Oh fucking hell, not you again."
Yeah.
So who knocks on the door the most, Stan?
I don't know. I mean, I know.
Cedric. It's got to be Cedric. Cedric's got to bring him his cup of tea every morning. Yeah, bring him his slippers. Open the door for him each and every day, Cedric. There you go. You know.
So
Well,
I think with Gabriel Jesus, he either has to work out or we have to sell him. Just because of the wages he's on. It's just an imbalance, do you know what I mean? You
All
can
right.
sell him and bring somebody else in for about, maybe pay them 140, 50 maybe. You know what I mean? And it keeps keeps somebody like Saka thinking, my wage is in a good place. I don't have to knock on the door for ask for more
well,
money
here's the other,
because of
here's the
people
other thing
around
that-
me.
Here's the other thing. I think the club needs to target forwards in this summer window. Then forwards, you can't say a right winger, you can't say a striker, you can't say a left winger. You have to have a player that could be interchangeable. So you could say to Bukayo Saka, "You're having a day off today because this player is playing on the right." He's not necessarily competing for your spot because he could play left, he could play central
Exactly.
as well. But Kyle, you've had a lot of games this month.
But
And
is a player that plays in those kind of positions, is that going to be a player that's going to get you 20 goals?
no,
You know what I mean? You know, like
No.
we're looking for a Haaland. It's obvious that Mikel Arteta wants to do something in the striking area, and we probably would have went a lot more bigger on whoever that is until Kai Havertz emerged. Kai Havertz emerging and scoring the numbers that he has means that we don't have to go out and break the bank necessarily now.
Yeah.
Pay over 100 million on an Osimhen when we could pay 60 million, 50 million for a Sesko.
hmm
Do you see what I mean? It kind of it changes the level of where we need to go to. It doesn't mean that Sesko can't do as good as what Osimhen could, but it's more of a gamble, and it's going to be less money, and there's money now that can be allocated somewhere else. And I think that's what Kai Havertz has done. So what has to happen here? Look, Sesko's people are coming after me now.
The key is, Stan, not to look.
So now
nervous.
what needs to happen is now Kai Havertz has to continue that into next season. It can't be just a blur. It can't be streaky. He can't do a Rashford. He can't do really well one season and shit the next. He has to maintain that.
Yeah.
To justify making a decision of not spending money on an Isak or an Osimhen to bring in a Sesko. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So it's a lot on Mikel's shoulders.
Hide, Stan. Hide, says Boise. Welcome, Boise, for being here. Good morning, Gooners. Indeed. He is a good footballer, but we need more. That's in terms of Gabriel Jesus.
And with Spencer's in as well, and with BX Gunners in as well. Spencer's
high wages,
in as well.
No goals, always injured, isn't doing anything for the club.
But
you know, could be a player, could be an impact player. What annoyed me a little bit this season? Okay, we may not have lost against West Ham at home. We may not have lost against Fulham on New Year's Eve. Like, these are things we shouldn't have done. But to lose at home to Aston Villa when Gabriel Jesus had shined in a substitute appearance against Bayern Munich midweek before, and Arteta got tweaked by that and put him into the lineup ahead of Havertz.
And why did he put in Zinchenko as well? Why did he put in Zinchenko? What was that all about?
He went back to those two players, as Tony would say, the crayons in the box, and one of the first few crayons in the box. But yeah, look, I'm a little bit on the fence about this one. Do we go out and break the bank for an Osimhen and signal our intent for a European trophy in 2 or 3 years? Or do we stay with plug and play another forward in there, and we're going to rely on our two number 8s and our two wingers and striker, those 5 players, to get us 15 goals a season? I see Lawrence is not liking some of what I'm saying there, right, Lawrence? What do you think? What do we do, Lawrence?
I don't know. Damned if we do and damned if we don't. You know, it's one of them things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we brought in, say, on Osimhen for the sort of money that we'd have to pay, minimum, he's going to get 180 grand a week, and I think it'd be more than that because of the position that he's playing. Goals is the biggest commodity. So if we're paying Gabriel Jesus 200 grand a week, and he costs us less than 50 million, the sort of money would we have to pay an Osimhen to make it worth his while? It's going to be up there in the Mesut Ozil levels, I would think, to make it. You know, it's a lot of big outlay. Whereas maybe a Sesko, you know, you could probably get away with less, maybe just under a Gabriel fee.
Yeah.
You know. So you got to look at all of these things, and I know it's horrible now that we always think about money, but what we're supposed to do, we've got social media, we're told so much about it, it's become part of the game. Whereas, you know, when I was growing up, wages and stuff like that, you know, you didn't really sort of care about it. I didn't know how much Ian Wright earned a week, or Dennis Bergkamp, or Robert Pires earned a week. I didn't know any of that. Just knew what the transfer fee was, right? Because that was the big thing on the paper. Now this is all part of it. And the people keep saying, well, it's not your money, why do you care? I don't care. But the owners do, you know what I mean? And that's what's going to determine how we spend the money.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Boise, no summer here in Ireland. Raining again today. We had hail showers.
Are you in Ireland?
Tuesday? Yeah. Whereabouts in Ireland you were from, Boise? I'm originally from Kildare. Go back regularly.
What time is it
Yeah.
there, right?
Well, it's 2:30 right now.
I
Donegal, up to Donegal. Okay, all
like
right.
your dedication, right? Fair play. Doing
Yeah.
the show. Fair play.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, look, what do we do here, Stan? Listen, I'm in favor. You know, if we're close to PSR, right? If we're sailing close to
I've heard that we're not.
profitability and
I
sustainability.
heard something the other week that we're okay in that area. That we're not sailing close. That we're
Okay,
there's wiggle room.
so we can go in Osmond if we wanted to, but you'd be kind of like going into the shop with all of your pocket money, Stan. All of that €10,
Remember
£10,
as well,
and
we-
sterling.
Remember, we brought in a sizable fee for finishing second in the Premier League. That goes into the books of what your winnings, right? We've got a good size of money as well from the Champions League. So we're bringing money in through the game as well. You see, I'm getting at that is part of when they look at the balancing. You also as well. There's going to be a couple of 3 players homegrown that we're going to get rid of in Nelson, Eddie, and Emil Smith Rowe. I think that we're going to be in a good place. On top of that, as well as the money that we've brought in through the competitions, there's going to be money put on top from the ownership through bank loans and blah, blah, blah to help. War chest, it's going to be huge, mate. It's going to be like, that clip from Breaking Bad when Huel, the big black guy's lying all of that money, doing like the angel, slow angel, all that, and the cash. That's Mikel Arteta and they do. They're just a wash.
I'm thinking more of Pulp Fiction where Vincent opens the briefcase. You see, it looks like gold.
It's beautiful.
We good, Vincent. We good. Well, we good. And of course, maybe there's not gold in there. There's some stories about other things being in there. But yeah, look, there's a couple of ways to do this, but we want to be in a position where Mbappe is going to go to Real Madrid. We want to be in a position where we have Saliba versus Mbappe. And we want to have something big up front against their defenders, like Saka, Martinelli, Erdegaard, Osimhen, Sesko, Havertz. Can we do it? Can we go up against Real Madrid in a couple of years or this coming season and do it? Beat them.
I'd like to think we can. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who we get in this revamped Champions League. I don't know if you saw that video I sent you earlier on today, which explains how it's going to all work out.
Yeah.
But we're going to get 2 teams from pot 1, which could be Real Madrid and could be Inter Milan.
Yeah.
Or Bayern, all the big boys will be in pot 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go, two from pot 2, and I think it's one or I can't remember. From
Atletico, maybe, for instance.
Yeah.
Atletico.
But it's going to be, as I said, it's going to be interesting how this.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting how this newly formed Champions League is going to pan out.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a league format, 8 games in the league, and
Really?
yeah, if you're in the top 8, Stan, you get a buy into the last 16, and if you finish something like 9 to 23, something like that, the next. I think
so each
16.
group is a league of 8 teams.
It's a full league.
Oh, it's a full league now.
Yeah.
It's
So
one league of
it's a Super
36.
Imagine the Premier League, Stan, where you're playing only 8 teams in that Premier League.
Yeah.
All of
That'd be
teams.
handy for.
How many? Hang on.
That would be handy.
It's a league,
That
but
would
there's
be
only 8
handy
teams.
for.
Yeah, it's a league, but you're only playing 8. You're only actually having 8 games in the league, so you got maybe 24 points available, right?
How many teams are in this league?
There's 36 teams.
36, yeah.
But you only play 8 games. You don't play. Okay, this is
Yeah.
confusing. I don't know how this works.
Think of it as like a Formula One sprint race for qualifying.
I'm gonna have to look it up and read about it because I've not looked into how it works. So I'm not.
We're trying.
I sent you.
We're really trying
I
here,
sent you a
Stan.
link, Stan. Stan, I sent you a link to the video that explains it.
Well, when I go to one of my toilet breaks tomorrow for half an hour, I will use that time to. I don't do that. My boss.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do that. I never do that.
And if it's just 8 games, it'll be handy for Tottenham because they're used to winning a league title in October. So
Yeah, if they were in it, Lawrence. But they
Yeah.
How do they choose the 8 games then? How
So
do they choose who
there's-
you're playing?
There's 4 pots
Well,
of different
there's-
strengths.
This sounds fucking confusing.
part of it's going to be a hand draw, you know, where they pick names or balls out of a hat, and the rest of it's going to be done by computer.
All right, so Stan will not be joining us for the draw.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, they said
Carry the
if
one.
You watch that, if you watch the video, they said if the draw was done by hand, like it normally is done, it would take 3 hours to complete it.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you have to go through all of the teams and fix their fixtures to it. But yeah,
Pot
basically, Stan, there's four pots, and you take 2 balls out of each pot, right?
Okay.
And it's going to be varying strengths. Pot 1 will be the big boys, right down to pot 4, which will be the people at Arsenal will struggle with, you know, the minnows.
Right. Okay. Right.
Panathinaikos.
I'll watch the video tomorrow of Newcastle.
There we go. But it'll be interesting. I'd go after Alfonso Davies, says BX Gunner.
Good player.
Boys said we got 100. There you go, Stan. We got 178 in sponsored deals this year.
See, we'll watch with
Add
money.
that. Add that, Stan. Add that to the prize money that we got from Champions League and the.
Mate, it
Premier
do be
League.
lighting his barbecue up with £50 notes to get it going. Just money's just burning a hole, mate. Seriously.
Edu will be starting his grill with some moolah. With
Yeah,
some
he doesn't
cash.
use charcoals, man. He just uses 50s all rolled up.
Stefan's here. What it ostensibly is a remaking of the so-called failed European League, just another format of the ill-fated Euro Super League. There you go. And starting next year, Emirates is going to be giving us 60-70 million annually. So there you go. It's about 250 million.
Big Arteta come out, all right, knock on the doors. Like, yeah, God, here we go. Emirates is just giving us 70 mil. He's like, fucking hell, not more money. I don't know. I can do
So
it.
the rumor is that
I can just put it with the rest.
the rumor is that Mikel Arteta never gets to actually see his wife because the bed is curved that way, Stan. You know, because of all the money underneath the bed.
Exactly.
That's what it is. He never gets to see Lorena at all. He never has any more wonderful nights out. There you go. From the I'm tired. LOP.
That's nothing. Mikel Arteta is tired
wow.
of all that money. He's sick of it. He's like, too much money. Fuck it.
All
I'll
right.
give Havertz 300 grand a week. Fuck it. Got to get rid of it somehow.
There we go, Michael. Why don't they lower ticket prices or give me some? Yeah, give something back to the fans. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. So Sesko, it does look like Sesko is going to be the guy, right? And it's going to be a type of signing that will boost if Kai Havertz is playing up front and he's not getting it done after 65, 70 minutes. We're looking to a player called Benjamin Sesko.
Why can't they play together?
Well, they are a very similar profile, I would say.
I just think more and more, 2 playing up front is becoming.
I'd be like Ian Ormondroyd and Crouch together. That'd be like those two up together, you know? Remember Ormondroid?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Too
Sounds like
tall.
something.
It'd
It,
be
sound- it
like-
sounds like his name sounds like something that you need cream for. Need some cream
It'd
for
be
my
like-
hemorrhoids.
It would be
Ormondroid.
like Nicholas. It'd be like playing Nicholas Bentner and Eddie Nketiah up front together.
John Fashanu and Eddie and Kenny up together.
John
I don't know why-
Fashanu.
Why didn't Ian Ormondroid ever
Or
go
John
and do
Fashanu, as a friend
Gladiators?
of mine pronounces it.
Ormond-
It doesn't say John Fashion, it says John Fashanu.
Okay. Why didn't Ormondroid ever go and do Gladiators then?
Couldn't get enough cream.
Give back to the fans outlandish suggestion. Yes, Stefan. Yes, we are funding the cash cow of the big clubs. Here's the thing. Why do, and this will take us into something we want to talk about, right, Stan Lawrence? Why do people think that the established clubs have a monopoly on the league? Why do they think Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, let's say, and Chelsea? Why would a team like Man City think there's a monopoly in the Premier League and that they are actually the bad guys, the mistreated child, the redheaded stepchild in the Premier League?
So we're going into the Man City thing, right? Is that where we're
Why
going?
not? Why not? Let's do it.
It's only
Dive
taken
right
an
in.
hour. It's only taken an hour. I wanted to
Well,
start with
Stan,
that shit.
I started out by saying I'm going to lean into you to guide this thing, and
I'd
you
like
know.
to hear what Lawrence. So I'd like to hear first of all what you guys think about what's gone on this week.
Well, I want to say
With
first of
Man
all,
City. I'd like to hear
Lawrence. Now we know what Stan's like on the night out. He wants someone else to make the first move. Wants his missus to make the first move.
Exactly.
that. And she usually does. Get off me. Watching these
No,
dinners.
so
All right. So, what was the question you posed then to Lawrence?
You know,
and me?
well, basically, okay, so we'll start this segment off. So, in case you've been living in a cave all week, basically what's happened is in the last couple of days, Manchester City have come out with a statement and they are going to be taking the Premier League to court. For the people that run the Premier League to court, it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. And basically, the reason that they want to take them to court is that they're saying that the changes that the Premier League made in how money can be invested into a club, i.e., you know, if you are a team and you're sponsored by Emirates can't just turn around and say, we're going to give you your shirt sponsorship money, and we're going to pay you 500 million, which would be insane when everybody knows that the going rate is around maybe 30 million or 40 million
For
market
instance.
value. And I'm using that as an example, right? So Manchester City are saying that the rules that were put in place to stop that is unfair. And they actually called it that they say that it's the tyranny of the majority. Because when rules are made in the Premier League, it's not just a load of guys sat up in an office with cigars, drinking like scotch, going, right, we're going to do this next week, right, we're going to do that. There has to be a vote. And in order to vote for the vote to get through, 14 teams have to have the majority. And that's just how it is, right? That's a democracy. That's how it works in the Premier League. So when obviously Man City, you know, asked if they could join the Premier League by taking over Man City, they signed up to the rules, right? They signed up for those rules and to participate. And granted, those rules have changed while they've been in situ. And I'm talking about the nation state that owns Man City. Those rules have changed. But those rules just weren't changed by, as I say, blokes sitting around with cigars. What are we going to do today then? It was voted in by the majority of the clubs that make up the league. So they're saying now that these rules are unfair and they're unlawful, and they want to take the Premier League to court. So that's basically what is happening in a nutshell. And before I weigh in, I'm interested to know what you guys think about this revelation.
Well, have they just discovered that? Have they just come across this social and economic this disadvantage that they've been under? You know, they've been in existence
A
since
disadvantage,
2008.
even though they've been winning everything. So right, okay, let's caveat that. They're that hindered by it. They've kept winning. Okay.
And it's been 16 years that they've been in existence, right? The ownership
This
have
is all.
taken in situ in 16 years, longer than Pep Guardiola's been there, you know. And now they have the temerity to say that they've been mistreated and they've been playing against an unlevel playing field where the chips are stacked against them. The bigger clubs instituted this profit and sustainability rule in order to maintain their seat in power and their empowerment. And I know people like Tom have wondered why are the big clubs the big clubs. I'll tell you the reason why the big clubs are the big clubs, because historically and heritage wise, they've built up that reputation over the years. So where players want to go to the big clubs in England, they want to go to, we have to admit it, Manchester United are historically a big club, Liverpool also, and you know Arsenal
Yeah,
have been.
a young kid growing up in France who's aspiring to play football and looking on the TV is probably more going to be drawn to supporting a club like Liverpool, Man United, or Arsenal, as this pluck those out of the air, as opposed to, I don't know, Luton, Sheffield Wednesday, or Barnsley.
Mhm.
It's just the way it is, right?
And I think it's just the way. Think of them as big corporations because they are big corporations, and everybody wants to go work for the big corporations. Every Formula One driver wants to drive for Ferrari because they have that heritage behind them. They may not be the best team in Formula One. Every player wants to play for Barcelona. Every Latin American player wants to play for Barcelona or Real Madrid. You know,
The
to
football heritage.
to be
This
part
is
of their CV and resume, Lawrence. You know,
this is just typical Man City. They know they're guilty of all these charges, and for them to say, "Oh, well, we d- we've been cheated by the Premier League. We're going to take them to court." You know how dare they? I mean, they've broken every rule in the land. You know, they see they haven't worked with the Premier League to show their accounts. Let's get it into perspective. They've cheated. They've cheated. They've done this for over a 9-year period, right? They've not worked with the Premier League when the Premier League asked them to show them their records, right? And now I see people on here saying, "Oh, well, they'll get away with it." They're not going to get away with it. How can you get away with 115 breaches of cheating, of cooking the books?
well,
There's no way they're going to get. And if they do get away with it,
I don't blame anyone. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Lawrence, but I don't blame anyone here who thinks that the Premier League might not follow through on this. There's no way of knowing if they're gonna get charged.
Can I just say
not.
something? A few times we've talked, as you know, on this podcast, we've spoken about Man City in the past. There's always been that element of nothing's going to happen. The Premier League are going to let them off, and that's always made me laugh my head off. The Premier League aren't doing this to let them off. If there was some sort of backroom channel talking, it's like, don't worry, you know, we're just going to go through the motions and everything, but no, you just get a slap on the wrist. Why would Man City now be taking them to court? You cannot see what's happening here.
I see it.
See it. They are not. There's no back deal done. They are not. Man City do not think that it's all going to be sweet as a nut. The Premier League. Blood. The Premier League want blood. They want blood. They want to show the British government that they can govern this sport by themselves, and they want blood. If they didn't want blood, they would have only leveled 3 charges at them, not 115. I mean, when you first heard the first news came out, and you heard that Man City had 150, you were like, what?
February of last year.
Rewind. Did I just hear that correctly? 100 and what? It was like, It wasn't like
It was-
3 or 4 charges, 5 charges, 8 charges,
It was
100. It wasn't even 100. It was 115.
yeah,
The
150.
same price as Caicedo, 115. Right?
Yeah.
So
It
they
was
are
February.
out of blood. So let me tell you what's happening now, right?
Yep.
Man City have now got to the stage where I think that, okay, if you owned a business, whether
You're
it's a
lawyering
football
up.
club, a tech company, or a car manufacturer, and you managed to get your company into the #1 spot, and all of a sudden people were coming out with accusations that the only reason that you managed to get your company into that #1 spot was through underhand dealings, and that wasn't the case, you would be infuriated, right? Because all of those years of hard work and graft and clever planning and clever thinking and hiring the right people and strategizing is now just being undermined. You would do everything in your power to, as quickly as possible, get the truth out there to show everyone that it's just like jealousy.
Yeah.
And that you've got to where you are because of hard work, right?
Yeah.
Rather than have a continued spotlight, a bad spotlight shone on you. I don't see any evidence of Man City that they are trying to do that. If anything, it looks to me, and this is only my opinion, that they've realised that they're not just going to get a slap on the wrist. They're not just going to get a financial fine that they can that they'll have that money under the sofa anyway and go, there you go, there's 100 million. They've realised that it's probably going to be something bigger than that. So what have they done? They've decided to bankroll their lawyers to find stuff. And this is 2 things. One, it creates a smokescreen against the charges which are coming.
Distraction.
But also what it does is, if their lawyers can prove that the changes that the Premier League to the financial fair play or whatever are unlawful and shouldn't have been done, they'll be able to retrospectively go back and say, well, some of these charges fall under that. And if this is now being proven to be unlawful, then you've got to take those charges away because we didn't do anything that is unlawful. And now the 115 begins to come down. That's what this is. If you had nothing to hide, you wouldn't be doing that. You'd just be going, there's all the books, there's everything. What are you talking about? Up yours. We want to get on and continue with our hard work.
Yeah.
This is what this is doing. So it tells me that they're worrying about something. Now you're playing the victim card. That's what it looks like to me. It's like, how many you're playing? It's so obvious to everybody watching this, I think, of what is happening here. Allegedly. And I could be wrong. Maybe they're innocent, right? But if these do not look like the actions of someone that's got nothing to hide, why have they continually tried to slow it all down? They've continually tried to slow the process down, drag it out. And it's funny, isn't it, that all of a sudden they've got a court thing coming up. That's going to be heard in 2 weeks. It's not going to be heard down the road. It's happening in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you also know that some of the other Premier League clubs want them out of the Premier League. There are several clubs that want to kick them out.
Yeah, and they've threatened to go to this European League, right? A breakaway European League as well.
Yeah. And I told you this when this first started. I said, don't be surprised that Man City quit the Premier League and sign up for the European Super League.
Yeah.
Good. Goodbye. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
And this is a club that 25 years ago was struggling to get past Gillingham in the playoff for the second division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and
they're not technically a big.
and they're afraid they're going to be back there in a couple of seasons, Lawrence. They could potentially.
Yeah, well, they should. That's where they belong. That's where they belong.
One thing, I mean, us as
They did the
Arsenal
same-
fans. Go ahead, Lawrence.
They did the. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
They did the same thing with Glasgow Rangers. They did the same thing with Glasgow Rangers a few years when they were cooking the books. They kicked them down to the Scottish Third Division.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean,
look,
the Premier League, you know, at the end of the day, they made this is all down to them years ago, opening the doors and inviting all and sundry to come and buy football clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it is.
It could have happened as far back as 1992 with Blackburn Rovers when Walker came in, right? If he was a nefarious character, if he had been an oil state or whatever, they could have come in and splashed the cash and done things there. As an Arsenal fan,
How can you join something, and then once you've joined it, you go like, okay, I want to play this game differently, but the rules that they've got in place are prohibiting me to do that. And it's like going, you're bullying me. This is unfair. You're like, well, you decided to come and join us. You knew what the rules are. You knew that we're the governing body. You can't come in now and start trying to mould it to fit you. Doesn't work
I saw something recently, Lawrence Dan, a tweet about the percentage of growth from all of the established Premier League teams. You know, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool. The growth is like 150, 200%. When it comes to Man City, and I realized that their books would have been minimal when they started, but when it comes to Man City, it's like 1,100%. They've multiplied they've grown by over 1,000%. You know,
where did they get the money from all of a sudden to get and buy Robinho? They got an injection of money coming in through, you know, being owned by owners that had other companies in their group, and they can say, you can have a bit of advertising hoarding here, which usually costs 40 quid for John's pasty shop, but you can have it for 100 million because we're all in the. Do you know I'm getting at? That's what they've done. They've been able to like fatten the goose
by putting a sponsorship deal together, as you said, that is like 500% more than what is normal market rate.
And they have a rule in England, and they look. What they will do is, when anytime a deal like that, they will look at the market value and say, "Well, hold on a minute. You know, this is a Ford Fiesta, which usually sells for like 800 quid, and you're buying it for $1 billion. Yeah. This isn't, it doesn't work like that." And Manchester City are basically saying that they want to get rid of that rule.
That was somebody who recognized Stan right there.
That's Pep Guardiola.
Michael said, shouldn't transfers need approval by the Premier League so they could regulate rather than let City get to this point? It all looked like legitimate money, right? If you have an airliner, who's sponsoring you for, let's say, 500 million a year, and that money has come from the airline to buy that player, well, the airline normally would be 50 million, not 500 million. So they've inflated the game. They've inflated everything about the Premier League, and they were the ones who started paying high wages and high transfer fees. Then Man United got involved, and then Chelsea got involved, and now we're into the era of 100 million pound players on the regular, and we'll probably have another 100 million pound player exchange hands this summer. I just don't know.
I can remember the first time a player got bought for £1 million. Jerry Francis, Nottingham Forest, and that was
Trevor, yeah.
Sorry, Trevor. I'll get me Francis mixed up. Trevor Francis.
Jerry Francis was a manager for Allah.
Yeah, QPR as well. But yeah, Trevor Francis, and it was like shit. Now you can't even get a big toe for that.
Yeah, look, and one of the original plastics. What was the guy? What's his name again? He just left. Roman Abramovich. He started it all as well over 20 years ago. So all of this happened in the wake of the Invincibles. Roman Abramovich coming in, I think 2002. Getting his feet in the door. It all happened this way. Listen, the reason why they are aggrieved at the perceived top six, it's because the top six have been there. They've been established for many years. They've been winning trophies. And as Stan said, a French player, because it's a generational thing, a French player has been sitting in Metz or Le Havre. We can name one of those obscure French towns, Strasbourg, and watching watching Arsene Wenger and Thierry Henry clean up in the Premier League, and they now want to go to Arsenal. Saliba was probably one of those players when he was a kid. We've seen pictures of him in an Arsenal kit.
And
You know?
Mbappe said he was.
Yeah.
Even Mbappe said that, it was a French thing, right?
And he'd be if Arsenal was warm like Spain is, he'd probably be in London now. Maybe. Who knows?
We have a thing where a lot of young French players and a lot of young Dutch players look at Arsenal as a bit of a pathway. Even Frankie de Jong said that, you know, after leaving Ajax, the clubs that he would like to play for would be Arsenal and Barcelona.
Yeah, because we've seen a lot of Dutch players go to Arsenal and then move on to Barcelona and Real Madrid. And every player, we probably have to accept at the end of the day, some of our Arsenal players right now may want to finish their careers in Spain. Who knows?
Maybe not though, but where we are now, I think that's
I think
if you're a team that's getting to the quarterfinals and above in the Champions League and always looked at, every season you see that the club are improving the squad, and you're battling, maybe Arsenal is no longer a stepping stone. Especially when you look at clubs like Barcelona, and now it's in the position where Arsenal are sniffing around Rafinha again because they need to sell players. In order for them to bring players in, they need to sell.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? It's a little bit like us losing Robin van Persie. Robin van Persie, as much as we call him a traitor and a snide and a Judas, which he was, but the behind the scenes, we've just done the stadium deal. Players' contracts are coming up for renewal. Back then you're on like 55 grand a week, and now you're looking to get 80, and the club can't do it. They can't do it. They're going to have to sell you and bring in a player that earns 40 grand a week. Do you know what I'm getting at? Because they can't improve. They can't keep their good players because they can't improve the wages.
Well,
and that happens to us a lot. That's why we lost a lot of our players. We couldn't improve Sagnier's contract or Cliché's contract or Robin van Persie.
Well, I think a lot of it was, Stan, because we didn't want to improve the playing staff. Van Persie wanted to win something as well.
Exactly, and we can't we can't give them the wages, and we can't bring in equal quality because of the stadium. That's what done us.
Right.
Done us.
And listen, I love Arsene Wenger. I love Arsene Wenger. Mossy's in the house. Love Arsene Wenger. But in the first 12 years, it was great. But he did become an economist in the last 10 years of his Arsenal managerial career. And an architect. Apparently, he built the stadium. That was all he's, know. And he worried about the repayments. And we broke up an invincible team to pay for the stadium. And there we say it, Gazidis and all of that, and all the things he said. All right, Bandam 14us, and we'll circle back around to Man City. Are we finished with Man City, or there's still more shade to throw in their direction?
I'd like to ask you guys a question, and it's going to be hard to maybe take your Arsenal hat off, or even put it on, notwithstanding, depending on which way you want to look at it. But if this was Arsenal, and he was in the position where we had won 6 Premier Leagues, 4 in a row, doing a treble or a quadruple, whatever it was, just the other season. But meanwhile, we're in the same position. We have 115 charges hanging over us that have yet to be answered.
Right.
Every time we win something, we've got other fans calling us 115 FC.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're still trying to say to yourself, well, I'm sure, maybe it is a siege mentality and we haven't done as many things wrong as they're saying. That's what you're trying to say to yourself as a fan. And then you pick up the newspaper and now you see that your ownership are now trying to sue the Premier League and saying things like it's a tyranny of democracy. How would you honestly be feeling as a supporter of the club? Would you not? Okay, you'd be thankful of seeing how your football team plays, right? The football they play, you'd be like, this is great to watch.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you feel a bit embarrassed by now it's got to the stage where they're trying to counter sue them. And I'd be a little bit like
Definitely. There's no way that as an Arsenal fan, if my club was being administered by that country,
you know, it's like knowing someone that robs banks. And
Yeah.
he's a bit of a lad. I know what he does, but he always takes me out for a drink and he splashes.
There's no way.
Then you find out that not only are they robbing banks and living highly, they're also every week they're signing on and getting dole money, and you're paying the taxes. And you're like, hold on a minute.
Never say never. And I would hope that our fans would protest against, like Man City did, like Man United did against the Glazers. I would hope that our fans would protest.
How would you weigh this up? You know,
there's no way, Stan. You have to know. You have to know, Stan, what your club is doing and who they are, who they represent. Rocky Rocastle said, "Remember who you are, who you play for, and who you represent."
Would it be worth being known as the club that won 4 Premier Leagues in a row, only to be maybe relegated 2 divisions? Is that worth the payoff? Do you know what I'm getting at? That's the footnote.
But then,
footnote. Is it
do
worth
you know, Stan? Do you know when we talk about Champions Leagues and other fans are like, but we've got a Champions League. Well, we're like, we can't. But
talk. It'd be different for City, wouldn't it? It'd be, if you're a City fan and you're like, yeah, my team won 4 in a row, and then someone else next to you goes, yeah, but you cheated and you got relegated 2 divisions. That's it, isn't it? Yeah. You know what I'm getting at?
It's very, very hollow. It's very, very hollow.
We won 4 seasons in a row. They're like, yeah, but you got 4 of those titles stripped away or something. You know what I mean? You know,
if I'm a Man City fan, then I must know that you didn't win it fairly. You didn't do it fairly.
So here's the other thing as well. Now, a lot of Premier League teams have now come out since Man City have said we want to sue, we want to, legal action, tyranny and democracy. A lot of teams have come out and said, well, they're thinking of putting together a counterclaim which could cost Man City billions in what they're calling placement money. Placement. Had we finished here, we would have got X, but we finished there and only got Y.
And that basically everyone moves up one step, right?
Yeah, they're calling it placement fees. So they reckon that could come to billion or billions. I can't remember if it was plural. But, this could be like a civil war in the Premier League. And I think that if Man City are going to do this court where they're going to take them to court in 2 weeks. If they win, that's it. It's game over. The Premier League needs to be able to say we're allowed to, the reason that we changed these rules, it wasn't just us sat up in the boardroom drinking whiskey, smoking cigars. We took it to the Premier League and it was a majority win. That's how it works here. There is no case. Do you know what I'm getting at? It's not just us thinking, we don't like these people that have come into what the Man City are trying to say. They're trying to say is when people from our countries in the Gulf state came to the Premier League with all of this money, he let us in. Yeah, come in. Yeah, we love you. Bring the money. Now all of a sudden, this is what they're saying, that you're trying to penalise us. They're trying to penalise owners of clubs from Gulf states. Now, call that what you want. Isn't that basically saying that you're racist against us? That's quite a heavy level to say. They're saying that these rules have been put in place not for the benefit of the Premier League, but to penalise owners from a certain part of the world.
Again, I'm going to come back to 16. The ownership has been in existence.
I think that's very provocative.
16 years.
And the Premier League needs to win this. I can't have that kind of accusation.
Can I stand a question?
Yeah.
If by some miracle City do get away with this, do you think that's the end of the Premier League completely?
Are you saying getting away with the 115 charges or the court case thing in 2 weeks? Do you know what I mean? Which one?
I think the
one in 2 weeks. What, the 115 charges? Or the thing that in the next year, if they win that, I think the Premier League loses a lot of integrity. They lose a lot of integrity.
Because I was watching a show.
hang on, they lose integrity, and
Yeah.
it's going to help them when they get to November and these 115 charges, because they will be able to say, we won that, we proved that this was irregular, it needs to be backdated because we never did anything wrong. That's where this is going to. You see what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
That's what the play is. This is what the play is, and they've paid legal minds to come up with this shit. That's what they do. They've got the best legal mind, and this is the play. This is what we're going to do. We're going to say that them changing it is out of order and it should never have been allowed. It's a democracy, blah, 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 whatever. And if we can prove that, then it means that these 115 charges, if we prove that being able to stop third parties sponsoring you, over-sponsoring you for your shirts by 450 million, if we can prove that that's allowed, then we've got, how can they charge us for what? Do you know what I'm getting at? This is what this is about. Which tells me that if you've got nothing to hide, why would you go to these lengths? Why would you keep paying and bogging it all down and paying the legal team and blah? You could have come out and said, we've done nothing wrong, here's all our books. Done nothing wrong. Let's get this to court tomorrow because we want to get this over with because we've got work to do. And you're just tarnishing our name and the hard work that we've done. That's how I'd feel if I owned a business and people were coming at me, but they're not. They're deflecting.
Yeah, because I was
Yeah, they're lawyering up, is no way to call it. Getting their lawyers together. It's a clear indication that you've got something to hide.
I
You're
reckon the
going into
Premier League would
litigation.
be just like the mafia. They'll have them for, they could never get them on murders and stuff like that, the heavy stuff. And how do they get Al Capone? Not paying his taxes. They get all RICO charges for John Gotti. They'll find something.
Yeah.
Something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was watching an English TV show. They were discussing this with a reporter from the Times, whose newspaper carried this story, and he said that if City get away with this, that's the end of the Premier League completely.
I don't know, though. People are always going to watch it, aren't they? The product. It's worldwide. There's a huge audience.
You're talking about sponsorship and stuff like that. Maybe they do some integrity. They're supposed, you know what I mean? It's like, is this the Premier League or is it the Man City League?
I'm talking about the viewership. But is the Premier League ever going to lose viewership because of this? You know, there's games on every weekend. We go and we watch them religiously, and it is our weekend.
If Man City got relegated 2-3 leagues, like, and got what happened to Rangers, I don't think the Premier League will collapse. I think people will still watch it.
I think so. I know they will. Yeah, I know they will.
I actually think that Man City has a very small and a very plastic fans. And what will happen is if Man City get relegated 2 or 3 leagues, their fan base will decline and some of their fans will start supporting other teams.
Absolutely.
There'll be a new face in the pub in about. He's just from City. You didn't see this guy.
I think there was something. I saw something recently. The majority of Man City fans reside in the US. Let that sink in. As the popularity of the Premier League has gone through North America, and maybe Canada as well, the majority of the fans that support football are Man City fans. The majority of fans in the US are Man City.
5 years that I've lived in Vancouver, I've never seen anybody.
We wouldn't see that. We wouldn't see that tosser Liam Gallagher on the telly all the time.
Bandam 14 us. Listen, I've put a star on your other comments, so we will come back to that one, Bandam. But this one, regardless of the outcome of the 115 charges, I won't ever give respect to City. They're a cheater. And I also believe the Premier League is rigged at some point. Chelsea was first to ruin the league. Yeah, listen, this notion, it's very hard when you have officials and maybe who have like they're making subjective decisions on games. We don't know if they're controlling results. You know what I mean?
What's happening here is that they're trying to say, like, if we could get one of our sponsors to pay us whatever we say for a sponsorship, why shouldn't that be allowed? But if you have a team like Luton who come up they've probably got a lot of local sponsors, a lot of local sponsorship in a place like Luton,
Yeah.
I would imagine, right? You know, Milton Keynes, places like that, London maybe, but they're not going to be able to have the opportunity to get the same kind of revenue, which means that they're never going to be able to compete with Man City. And Man City are trying to say, well, you know, if you're Apple, does that mean that you can't bring out the next? Mate, it's a different thing. This is sport. This is not consumership. It's not about being able to bring out a better car than that company. This is about teams playing the sport. So if you're always going to be able to bring in 500 million a year through like third-party sponsorships that your holding company owns, and teams that come up through the channels and get promoted are only going to be able to get, you know, a fraction of that. How's that going to be fair? Those teams are going to go straight back down. Another few teams will come up. They'll have it's always going to be. What is the point in that? You might as well call it WWE then, which is scripted. And I love watching wrestling, as you know, but I don't want to see that in football. I want to watch football knowing that it's more of a level playing field. And Man City is saying, "Oh, we don't like those rules. We want to be able to."
How can they say it's a level playing field when they have superstars sitting on their bench that have been funded through illegal means?
They want it to be like they want football to be like, let's say that I won the lottery tomorrow,
Harlem Globetrotters,
and I won 5 billion, and I walked up to the Cronkies and went, "There's 2 billion for Arsenal," and they snapped my hand off because 2 billion would be like, wow, do you know what I mean? And then I sat there and said to Mikel Arteta, "Here's another 2 billion to go and buy players. Why? Because I can afford it." That's what they want, but you can't do that. Do you know what I'm getting at? Otherwise, it's not competitive sport, is it? It's loaded.
I think Todd Bowley would want to do that at Chelsea as well. Newcastle, I believe Newcastle are doing it the legal way. They're doing it the correct way. They can't get traction. The
rules changed after the ownership came in. So what happened was with Newcastle, nation state, they wanted to follow City. They own more than any other owners in the world, right? Apparently, Newcastle.
Yes.
But this rule change came in after they took the ownership.
Yeah.
Right. So apparently, what I'm hearing is there's a few teams that are on Man City's side. There's 5 or 6 teams that are backing Man City. Probably teams that are similarly owned by either hedge funds or nation states. Yeah. But the one team, Newcastle, some people are saying publicly, they're saying they're not backing anyone. They're just keeping their head down. But behind the scenes, they're like, fuck this shit, man. We've got loads of money in our pockets. Why can't we spend it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And
as big as City is, and they're funded by a nation state, Newcastle are many, 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 many times bigger than Man City. But they have not been able to exercise their wealth because of the restrictions.
I get it, right? If you're the owner of Newcastle, right, you come in, right, you don't even like football, but you buy the club because it's the thing to do. And you go to Little Lord Fauntleroy, aka Eddie Howe. What do you need? And he goes, "I need Bruno Gummy Bears. I need Isak,
yeah.
I need Tonali." And you go, "There you go. There's all the money. There's the money. You go and get them." And then you get to the next transfer window, and you go to Little Lord Fauntleroy. Right, what else do you need to take us to the next level? And he's like, "Actually, you know those ones that you just bought? Yeah, I'm not allowed to build on top of that." "What do you mean? I've got to sell a couple of them." You're like, "What? Then are we always going to stay at a certain level?" So I can kind of see that argument, but you've got who's that? Geezer on top there.
You know what else as well, Stan? He let himself in the back door as well.
What I'm saying,
no, I just came in.
You look really different. I don't know what it is.
It's a little red. I don't know why it looks like that.
I think it's because you're not wearing a hat.
It's the cap.
Too.
I think I've never seen the top of your head before. I think that's what it is. I think this is the first time I've seen the top of your head.
Stan, it would be like you without glasses, Stan. It just wouldn't.
It's like me growing hair.
Hey, right.
I do not think they're silk pajamas. Are they, Gary?
No, they're not. Right. I saw that from BS.
Yes, Lawrence.
Side note: I've been reading that your favourite team, Liverpool, its main sponsors, Standard and Chartered, have been investigated for funding terrorist groups.
Yeah. Look, I'm not defending anyone. I'm not defending anyone, but I know Gary has said in the past, everybody's got skeletons. Every club has got skeletons of some sort in the closet, right? But
At the end of the day, right, we're still trying to encourage people to visit Rwanda. To be fair, do you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
They were
But-
chopping people's heads off in the 70s, allegedly.
Yes,
Allegedly.
yes, indeed. But that's the power of sponsorship. So Gary may have been listening for a little bit, got a little bit of flavor of the
Man City,
conversation.
Gary. Man City.
Man City, why are they being treated so badly, Gary? I mean,
Treated so
playing-
badly. Hey, you know what? I want some of that pain. Can you give me? What is it? Six Premier Leagues in 7 years, a
Yeah.
quad, a treble. When you're struggling, if that feels like that,
Yes.
give me some of that. Then give me some of that.
it's-
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, they're.
That bully that calls you four eyes every day for 6 months, and then the day you turn around and punch him in the mouth, they go running to the headmaster. They go like, and you're like, it's been 6 months I've been putting up with this shit.
uh-huh.
Sorry,
So
Gary.
Gary, they're getting an army of lawyers together, as Stan said. They're coming with a counter. What do you call it? A counter lawsuit against the charges.
It's not even a counter; it's a fresh thing. It's its own individual thing. It's not. Apparently, it's not connected.
This environment that they've been existing in for 16 years now is all of a sudden unpalatable to them.
How can it be unfair to them, even though they've won everything? That doesn't matter. It's not like you know what I mean. It's like we've won everything, and this is so unfair. So it's like, what?
Make it make sense, Gary.
There's
I
no
know
way
you
to
just
make
got
it.
here,
You know what? I know. I think they. I don't. I think. Well, you know what? I think they poked the bear now. If the league really thought, you know what, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Like what can they do now? Now they've said, you know what, your rules. We don't like your rules anymore. We don't like your rules, so we're not gonna. So we're gonna tell you that your rules are bad for business. And it's like, you know what? How do you know what the rules are bad for? It's their business. It's the Premier League's business, right? And guess who the Premier League is? 20 teams every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every year, 3 teams come in and get a vote, and they get to choose. This isn't something that like they're going after. They think they're going after the Premier League, but they're just going after everybody else, right? And that you've already seen it, right? There's
Some
what
teams
6
are with
teams
them,
that
Gary.
6 teams have letters or have information, right? Like, you know what? This isn't. Here's why. There's lots of teams that have reasons to. Like, I was listening to a couple of shows, and there's like I think not City, but Manchester United and then Liverpool. Some of the things that they wanted to do in the past, they weren't able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and because of the same reasons why the league's going after City now. Yes, and it's like we had to sit back, right? We had to step back and say, no, we can't make those types of deals. City's like, you know what? No, they have nothing to lose now, but I think that's why they have this their last straw. Personally, I think the league.
If this was Arsenal and this is all happening, would you be embarrassed now or not? Would you be like, oh,
no? You have to be. You have to be. They have no choice now. They have no choice.
You would have to. You would have to acknowledge we've won all these trophies out of the back on the back of cheating. You would have to.
You'd have to be like an ex-member of Oasis to not be embarrassed at this point. I would imagine.
Yeah, and then extol the virtues of Foden, who has one of their own has come through the ranks and scored all those goals and been a big part of the success story. But as you said, Gary, Stan, and Lawrence, if we were here as Man City fans or Arsenal fans and we won a treble, a Champions League, we all know there's a huge asterisk when we're talking to other rivals. on a podcast, or there's a huge asterisk on you over your head because you've done this illegally. You've cheated your way to winning titles and win. Look,
It's like, saying I'm really rich, and then someone going, yeah, but you robbed old ladies.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
you
I'm
have
really
the
rich.
best.
Yeah, but you robbed off old ladies. So, okay.
You have the best of everything. You have the best players. You have the best coach, and you have an embarrassment of riches to fund these players. You can keep another 11 players in your squad. You have a squad of 25, and any one of those 11 could play without a dip, without very much of a dip in your.
But you bent the rules and enabled yourself to get more funds in to get those attributes, those tools, those players, right? That's what they're saying, and that's cheating.
And we know at Arsenal. Go ahead,
I'm really good at poker. It's like saying I'm really good at poker. I say, yeah, but you've got 5 aces.
Yeah.
Does this mean that all the titles that City won? Does this mean that all the titles that City won during that time frame, they get stripped of and they get awarded to the team that finished runners up?
No, asterisks. They won't award.
No, you can't hand it to anybody, because if they were following the rules, who's to say Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal would have actually played out their season the same way?
So, right? In case you missed it, right? They're not talking about maybe awarding the cups, but they are saying, the other teams are saying, well, they're talking about placement fees. If they win this, then they're saying, or you know what I mean, then we should have got money if we was in that place.
The problem is the problem is it trickles down. It's not
Champions League.
It's not the first 17 teams. It's the relegated teams in that entire 10-year period, right? Some of those relegated teams may not have been relegated if, say, for example, they didn't have to play such a strong City team and lose twice to them. That's maybe 2 to 3 points they may have lost, right? So I kind of feel like this is not. It's a trickle down. It's not just affecting the second team in the league. It's affecting the 20th and the teams that got relegated. How many teams have been relegated onto this, right? And how many managers have lost their job because of this? How many players have lost their careers because of this? It's too many. That's why at some point you're going to have to stop. You can't keep going, or else you'll just be going forever and it'll never end.
It's
So
like
if you're a multi-billionaire and you ever find yourself in a situation that you don't quite like, there's usually a way to change it to the way that you do like it. And that just means handing over your credit card. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change this league and bend this league to a way that fits them to be at the top of the pile.
Yeah. It's quite hypocritical because they are trying to manipulate something that they are accusing the Premier League and the established clubs of manipulating in the first place. They're trying to manipulate it to their effect when they've said Man United, Liverpool, the establishment are after them.
It's a slightly different thing, but I just read yesterday that a team in Saudi Arabia are going to put in a bid for Casemiro at Man United. Agent Casemiro, who's got the turning circle of a Ford Transit van, 100 million euros.
Yeah.
Transfer fee.
We could have a similar thing
what the hell? That's just mental. That's mental.
Thomas Partey could be. We could have a similar thing this summer with the Saudi League. It could have happened to Gabriel last summer.
Listen, if they're going to pay 100 million for Casemiro, then there's a good shout that surely Thomas Partey is worth more than half of that.
See, here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. If the league
higher level.
Yeah. But I mean, it can't. I don't know if it's possible, but if the league can tell you that your marketing ventures are not legit, they can do the same thing for selling a player for over and beyond what they're worth, right? A 34-year-old Casemiro, who can barely stay fit, is not worth 100 million euros, right? Because it just screws up the market anyways, right?
I see what you're saying.
It screws up the market because
I think you're saying
like over like this is the whole thing. Overpaying for certain players creates a market that's not even there, and it just hurts the bottom of the table anyways, right? Right? Casado and Lavia and Mudryk and Modric, all these players, right?
Yeah.
Their transfer fees have hurt the market such that now anybody who's just worth anything should get top money unless what, right?
Mhm.
Unless they play at the Emirates, because when you play at the Emirates and you go on a transfer and you go out into the you go out there into the transfer window, you're worth less.
Big
But
bad
everybody else, they're worth, 30-40% more than they should be.
Yeah.
So
Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Right? If there is an oversight team that looks at sponsorship deals and looks at what the market value is, oh, hold on,
Yep.
you can't give 500 million for a shirt sponsor when the going rate is 40 million.
Yeah.
Then why are they not doing the same thing for players? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, because
Yeah, that's what Stefan
they're
is
saying
asking.
because that what it's the same monies, right? That money's being used for what? It goes into the team. They can use it to buy players. That's the whole point. That's what they're
Yeah.
saying. That's what City used it for, right? They took the money from the sponsors and then used it to build their squad. And they're saying you can't do that. Well, if somebody wants to pay over and beyond what a player's worth, then it should be the same thing, right? That's like, even you're essentially protecting, you're protecting owners from themselves, and that's kind of what
Then
the
hold
NFL
on,
is.
it would only work.
That's what
The money
that's
was
what
coming. It would only work if the money was coming from within the same group.
No, but it
Because
creates
you know
a
what I mean?
false market. It creates a false market that, guess what? It creates an unfair advantage for those teams,
Yeah, that's yes.
right? So that's the whole point. It's not that it hurts it hurts the teams at the bottom of the table, right? A new
Because
team coming in,
now you're
right?
saying, hold on a minute, if that guy's just gone for 100 million, I want to sell this player. Well, I'm selling him
Yeah.
for 110 because
Yeah,
he's younger than
and
him. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But
it kills the market, and then people start. This is the same thing that was happening in the U.S. in some of the sports. Rookies would come in and they would get these enormous contracts,
Mhm.
and then they would just bomb. After 2 years, they're like, "Oh, this player's not worth the 50 million we put down towards their, on their contract."
Yeah.
So then what they did is they said the first year end, those types of players get a certain salary range, right? Because it actually made more sense because a lot of times the top player in the league the top player in the draft doesn't always pan out, right?
Yeah.
And same thing in football. Like a top player comes in, like Nelson, right? Would have been like a player coming in for the first time into the league. Everybody looked at Nelson and said, "Oh, he's going to be a star," right? It hasn't worked out. Right? But if he had this big contract on him, guess what? The market he'd be screwed for his career, right? He probably would never play again, and because nobody's going to take on his salary, and he just would weather away on the bench, right? Basically, what's happening now, and then you just hurt your sport because now you've got players who have salaries on their heads that nobody's going to pay, and guess what? You can't build on them in the teams. So it's almost a way to protect yourself from the craziness that goes on with spending all this money that you shouldn't, and you have to be a little bit wiser about it.
Yeah, you don't know
right?
what you're getting, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like that's what needs to happen. I don't know how they do it in a marketplace where your players come from different countries with different denominations of value, depending on what country you're buying them from, right? I mean, they're buying players from all around the world. What's 100 mil in Asia is different than what it is in Europe, which is different than what it is in anywhere else in South America and all these types of places. But they're still trying to value them at the same amount, right? Like Gyökeres, is Gyökeres worth 100 mil, right? That's kind of where we're at.
No.
Like he's not worth 100 mil. He's had 1 year.
Was Darwin Núñez worth the money that Liverpool paid for him?
Not so far.
Yeah.
Anthony, again.
No. I think what we have is like a small pool of strikers who the big clubs think can move the needle for them very quickly. And you got 3 or 4 players. You got Osimhen out there, Sesko, and their different range of valuations, right?
And then you have a Haaland who screws it all up, right? Because somebody's going to spend 100 on Gyökeres, but they didn't spend 100 on Haaland. Which one's worth 100 mil?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So your market doesn't make any sense. Haaland is worth what, 55? right?
I think it's back.
And-
It was
and-
60 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something low, right? Cesco's was just the same amount,
65 Haaland,
right?
yeah.
And it's like it doesn't make any sense. It should be a whole package deal, but it isn't the way it's set up. So, it's a tough thing to do, but they have to have some sort of regulations because the money's gotten too big. You know what I mean? It was different when the TV money wasn't this big. Now TV money is so big, creates a marketplace that what you got players going for this amount of money, and you know what? This is the same thing happens in every sport. The more money you put into it, the more a player will stick around and do just the bare minimum to hold on to that contract.
Yeah, we got a few of those.
Right.
And what it does as well, Gary, it devalues the cup competitions because Stan has told us it's very, very low prize money for winning a cup.
I think it's like 5 mil or 15 mil for like a FA Cup, and like we didn't even make it to the semifinals of the Champions League, and we're getting close to 100 mil.
Yeah. So
four teams in the league got probably an extra 80 to 100 mil than every other team.
Yep.
And doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, and that's the cash. That's the slushing of cash, I guess. The cash cow, the top four.
It should almost to some degree. You should get more, but whatever you would get for say you finish first, right? But you finish deep into the Champions League. The monies that you would have got for first, to some degree, should probably be spread across the 20 teams in the league per se, right?
Right. Yeah.
That way, you still get the larger percentage, but the monies get spread out. So instead of say you were to get 50 mil for winning the league, but you go so deep that you make another 100 mil. Maybe you don't get the 50 mil, maybe you get 25 or something like that, and they spread the rest against it with the other teams. Because you kind of need to bring everybody closer together.
It's not more than 50 mil, Gary.
It's not more than 50 mil.
Say it's
100. Say it's 100 mil for winning.
It's 170.
170 to win the league, plus another 100
to come second. The difference between us and City was only 200,000 between first and second. It's only 200 grand. That's not a lot, is it? Not a lot.
Doesn't make it.
In the scheme of things.
That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't track.
It doesn't. Yeah, the math ain't mathing, as they say. That can't be. It's got to be a bigger percentage, right? Different.
Maybe we should go after that player, Emetiti Carbonet. After all, we have that all that money.
Yeah, there's a lot of them all over the place, man. There's a lot of those guys. I mean, they come from every nationality. You can pick up one of them.
Good player. I haven't heard anything about him. Don't know much about him, but
he's got a strong GA, man. Strong GA.
Stefan said, if City cheated, as in the charges, why didn't the Premier League or UEFA step in when the money was being spent? That's it. I mean, it looks like the legitimate money until the accountants have to go and look at the books. So I imagine a long graveled driveway that the Premier League officials are walking up, and the Man City officials see them coming, and they lock the gates to the town. They lock the gates and don't let the Premier League see their books. 115 times, let's say. You know what I mean? It happened. It happened many, many times. So yeah, what they should have really stepped in. There should have been more. Well, there was oversight, but it wasn't permitted. And that's your first red flag. When the first season you can't see their books, and what do? You just carry on?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem I see with that whole part. Like, they asked for some information to justify the numbers that they were looking at, and City said, "What? No? Oh, wait a second. I'll get back to you. Don't call us. We'll call you." At some point, the league's got to say, "Well, we haven't received it. You got 24 hours, right? 24 hours, or we're making a decision based on information at hand." You can try to appeal it, but there's nothing to appeal because we don't have the information, and you're already late, right? I give you a deadline, you miss the deadline. Guess what happens in most places, right? The door is shut, you miss out, right? That's some of that. Some of the information has nothing to do with it. It's just a procedure you didn't want to follow, right? This information needs to come at a certain time. It shouldn't have even got to this point, but all right, it is here. We're here now, but they shouldn't have to. What do they have to go to the courts for to find out? Look, we asked for this information, it hasn't come.
And look,
Guess what? It hasn't come, so there you go. That's the punishment. Here it is, right? You don't need to. There's nothing
Slim
really
Shady,
to
mate.
rule
Slim,
on.
Slim Shady.
Yeah.
do we blame Pep in all of this? Does Pep know? Did Pep know? Or was Pep just focused on the team, putting his best side out? The thing that he does week in, week out, rotating his side, keeping them fresh, motivating them to go and win each and every game. While the people upstairs, the executives upstairs, are the ones who are hiding the cash flow and all that stuff. Because let's not forget, Mikel Arteta was involved in the Man City setup as well for a few years. But I prefer to think that Pep maybe he knew, but like those Man City supporters, didn't really want to think about it while they were winning things, because winning games on the field cures a lot of things.
Well, Pep should definitely know, right? He's coached at what, three of the biggest teams? Well, two of the biggest teams in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bayern Munich and Barcelona.
Barca, yeah.
He knows what big is, and then he comes to City. And did he know anything about City back when he was coaching at Barcelona? Was City even in the equation? Did he come up against City in the Champions League when he was at Barcelona?
He was
don't
probably
know,
like,
right?
Oh, the city of Manchester where United play. That's what he probably said.
Well, exactly. So like he's watched a team that was, bottom of the table in a different league come up and now is competing with a Barcelona team that he, coached, right? And managed. And then he went to Bayern Munich, same thing. Still no City teams, no, still wasn't there. He gets to City, and all of a sudden, wait a second, they're just as big as Barcelona. How is that?
Who is this
like
dude?
he doesn't even have to see any books. He's been in football long enough to see what a big club looks like and how long it's been around and what kind of players they can bring in, right? This is almost like having De Bruyne and Haaland, it could be like having like the Messi's of that time, because who is that big right now? Nobody has an answer for Haaland. He was doing it in Germany, he's doing it in England, right? He's just a player that's just going to do it. Kevin De Bruyne, a really big star, right?
Yeah.
Rodri, another one of these world-class players they've got on the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's he doesn't have to even look at numbers to know that it's an anomaly. This isn't how things typically work.
Yeah.
Right. I know, like City, like that's like, I don't know.
Teflon City.
Think of any team sitting in like what, third division, and what 30 years from now they are winning quads and trebles. Yeah. Pick any team you can think of in English football.
Exeter.
Right? Boom.
I don't know where they are.
No, but I mean that's kind of where they were at one point, right? They were sitting
Exeter City.
levels down from Premier League. Now they are top of the table in the world of football. Yeah, and it was done all organically, right? They're gonna say it's done all organically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't show that because it's never big. There's no numbers that show that actually is how it works, right? It's like a stock.
Crazy.
It's like when there's a Ponzi scheme and you're like, how is this stock doing so well when the rest of the market says it isn't? And then the next thing you know, oh, it's a Ponzi scheme. It never was, right? There's this false money's getting passed around, and people lose their all their monies that they've been saving. So same thing. Like I said, the league needs to. They could take this. This is like a frivolous kind of a case, but I think some of those 115 they should have already ruled on. They don't need to go into court. They should have just ruled on them and then let them see. Like if they say, for example, 115, 50 of them are procedural, and you drop a point for every 50. You drop a point for each one of those 50 charges, for example. That's 50 points. If they want to appeal it, what do they appeal it and drop, right? How much did they drop for that, right? 25 to 25 points is still a big chunk, right? But they're not doing anything, so we're just sitting here waiting. I think that's the problem. They don't want to do it, but they need to. The easiest thing to do is go into court and figure this thing out. But they're going to sit on their hands, and it's going to drag out in the media, and that's all. That's what City wants, right? They waited long enough, and now they've thrown they put their cards out. So we'll see. I don't know. It's not good for football. You know, these are, I always talk about it. These are things that are just not good for football. It hurts everybody, not just the second place team. It hurts English football in general, right? Uh-oh, did somebody fall asleep on us?
Maybe Lawrence. I mean, it was bound to happen, right?
Yeah.
Gary, it was your dulcet voice and tone that did
I
it.
guess so. I guess I didn't realize. I'm hoping that was that. I mean, because was it nice tones, or was it just
No, of
you
course.
you were boring the crap out of me?
I
and
mean,
just,
it was the opposite of Tony.
It's
right?
it was like reading like a law manual to someone. Eventually, you just pass out and go to sleep. Is that what I sound like?
No.
Oh man. I guess
Anyway,
you know what? At least you can tell. As you can tell,
All right.
somebody's alive, right? So.
Yes. Hold the mirror up.
Oh, man.
Okay. Anyway, maybe just I'll just I'll just do this, right? Okay, there you go. He's backstage now, taking a nice little nap. And we'll be out of here before he knows it,
This
right?
is a totally different show. Oh, man.
All right. I actually think the Scottish Cup, says Stefan. I actually think the Scottish Cup is given more respect by the top teams than their English counterparts now, which to my mind is shocking. Yeah, we talked about devaluing the FA Cup, you know.
Well, they do it. They do it with the scheduling, right? They schedule like they have games going on during what semifinals? Like just like it should be.
Yeah.
Like they're playing Premier League matches during what semifinal matches, like the same day. Like hello,
Yeah.
it's a semifinal. It's supposed to be a big thing, and a lot of fans say that's some of their first their first time going to see a big game.
It's a cup
Would
game.
have been in this, yeah. Right,
Exactly.
and the only reason why isn't it not making money? Well, because you're not marketing it correctly, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They don't want to do any of the work to market their own product, right?
Yeah. So listen, here's exactly, and here's the thing. They complain about the established clubs. The established clubs are the clubs that have heritage. The heritage clubs are the teams that players want to go to at the end of the day, and so the cycle continues. If somebody like Brighton wanted to come along and be the biggest southern city on the coast, on the south coast of England, somebody like Tony Bloom, I think the guy's name, the owner, Tony Bloom. Well, you wouldn't be selling your best players. You'd be trying to keep them and build a dynasty in Brighton, for instance. Build a dynasty in Aston Villa. Let's see what Aston Villa do. Aston Villa have rich owners. Are they going to try? They just signed. Who did they sign? There was a Luton player.
Barkley.
Barkley. Would that be a player who's going to win you a Premier League? Probably not.
Yeah.
Decent
Good
player.
Ross Barkley.
Ross Barkley, decent player. He played well for Luton. They got a tune out of him, but it's not a transfer stand that you would say, "Oh wow, Aston Villa are really moving." You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
Yeah, well, they tell you all the time. Well, if you can't boost your ceiling, you definitely have to build your floor, right? And they probably, at the least, like think about it. If Arsenal continue to make their players that they brought in better than at least some of their bench players, right?
Yep.
That they could actually play them, then you only get better each time you do that. But we don't do that either, right? like Vieira isn't better than some of our bench players. He's equal to them, and
No.
they don't play. All right, so that's not good.
So a bit of the conversation we had today earlier, Gary, was Osimhen versus Sesko and dynamic in terms of the difference, the debate that one, the difference in price, the effect on the squad, all that stuff, Gary.
We want a striker, and Osman is not Isak, but he's close enough to it outside of the UK. Right? I don't know what player outside of the UK gives you the same kind of vibes as an Isak does, but I believe Osman does. We just don't know how he would hold up in the league. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said, is it Sesko? You were saying Sesko and Osman, right?
Yeah. Osimhen. One's a lot more
Yeah.
expensive, and one is the talisman. Maybe you could win a Champions League with Osimhen. Maybe you can do the same thing with Sesko.
I think but think about it. For Arsenal, we could win with either. Right? Well, like based on what we did last season, and you expect us to improve this season. If I said, look, you bring in Sesko, you bring in Osman, you bring in Gyökeres, all of that is pluses for us. We're just getting better, right? You would hope those players could actually start for you in certain games. Maybe they make a case for it and they just take the job, just like Havertz did, right? Havertz came in, we didn't think too much of it. Arteta forced him in the midfield, but in reality, he ended up forcing. He made himself much better at the top of the position, right? As a forward, so that's what we kind of need from our players anyway. So I don't know. Either one I think will do good for us. Like if we're going, like for me, I rather put that money into somebody like either an Isak, Bruno Gomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ollie Watkins, like those types of players that we know.
Like a medium level.
We don't have to question. We don't have to question whether, like, we paid all that money for Rice. We knew what we're going to get, and we got even more than that, right? So if you're going to put that money in, if you get a Gromage to come in, know you're going to get some of the part of the game that we don't have, but then you're also going to get hopefully whatever Arteta can add to it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we need to get. Whereas like Osman, we don't know, right? We don't know. There's unknowns there.
Exactly.
And then the Sesko gives you more potential.
Yeah, it's funny how transfers come around, and you're going to be judged on them a year or two later, like you said with draft picks as well, Gary. Osimhen could be more expensive. People might tout him as the better striker, but he may not adapt to the Premier League. There's a big Lukaku never really did that, adapt to the Premier League. Sesko, a younger talent. He could grow over the years. He's only 20 years old, and there's maybe.
But he also might not adapt to the Premier League.
Yeah,
not played in it.
I know. Right? Yeah,
Eddie Nketiah can't adapt to the Premier League, and he's trained in it.
Reece Nelson, we can go down the list, right? Reece Nelson.
It's true, though, right? It's true. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Sesko's a less of a gamble. Because you think, okay, maybe I can work with him.
So that's what gets me curious. That's what messes with my mind. How do you find, for example, I believe that Timber. If you can find a Timber on the back line, why can you not find a Timber on the front line? Why can't you find a Timber in the midfield?
Do you know what it is, Gary? Sometimes it's not just about the technical ability; it's about the individual, isn't it? How they climb.
Well, that's what I mean. So you identify.
Speak out of their, you know what I mean. Sometimes you can't get all of that until,
Look,
do you think they lucked up with Timber, or do you think they actually did the proper recruitment? And I did, because everything I heard coming for Timber coming in was that is a good player, technically, and everything else, right?
Yeah, he was going to go to United. He was under Ten Hag. He was going to go to United. We were looking at Martinez, and he went to United, the butcher of Amsterdam. Timber was known about.
I always use Willian as an example because he was in the Premier League in London. He came to Arsenal, And the environment, for whatever reason, it just wasn't right for him. And I thought it was a bust. But look at him. He's thriving at Fulham. It's a lesser team. Maybe their facilities are slightly who knows? I don't know what it's like in Fulham, but he's thriving there because, for whatever reason, the environment seems to suit him better. Sometimes it's just down to that. Maybe if we'd had Mudryk and Caicedo, we'd be getting tunes out of them.
Look,
that disappoints me because I kind of felt like
Chelsea.
But
yeah.
Tim
that disappoints me because how can a team that can bring in a player who's been trending downwards like Havertz find a place for him and get him to strive? Willian, outside of like him being older and maybe injuries and stuff, like we weren't able to make that work, and we've seen it work now elsewhere.
And there were other Brazilians at the club. And the manager spoke. Sometimes it's just a personality thing, I mean, look at the talent that Nicholas Bentner had, but look what he did on his time off.
True.
You can't legislate for that, can
Here's
you?
the thing. Dennis Bergkamp could have went to Liverpool and Man United and it might not have banged for him. He went to Arsenal. Sure. He found the right place at the right time in his life and his career.
Good example.
Look
at Dennis Bergkamp at the club before he came to us.
Inter Milan.
Look, it didn't work out as nicely as he would have wanted.
Henry at Juventus. Yep. Henry was at Juventus. Didn't work out for him as well.
Well, with that in mind, then that means that you might hit 60-70% of your targets when you bring them in, then, right? Because as much as I think City can hide it, I don't think Grealish panned out the way they wanted it to for them, right? And I don't think Cancelo panned out for them either, right?
Look at Ozil and Aubameyang. Both seasoned players have been around the block, but for whatever reason, they just didn't gel with our manager. It just didn't work, right? And he increased Aubameyang's contract and tried to show Willian, but it just didn't. Personalities, isn't it?
Yeah.
You must have a friend who really has another friend that he really likes, but every time you meet that guy, you think he's a bit of a dick. I don't know why he likes that guy. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's just like that, right?
Yeah. But because it's your friend, you maybe trust it. You trust that a little bit, right? Yeah.
True.
You can't see it. You meet this guy, and you keep going away thinking, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. What's up with this guy? Annoying, and but he loves him. My best mate loves him.
Yeah, I with the fact that Sesko's turning 21, like this is like in England, I think this would be one of the better teams to join just because we're a young team.
Yeah.
And they're all striving, all right?
We're getting better and better.
Like they're all striving. Like you'll be playing. You're 21. You'll be playing with Timber, who's young. I mean, Saka is 1 year older than you. Erdegaard, who's 2 years older than you. 3 years older than you, and Saliba, who's 1 year, same age as him, right? Or a year older, whatever. But
22.
Yeah, so you've got players around your same age all playing out.
Martinelli.
And they all play for their national team.
Older,
so like
Gabriel's like 23, 24.
Yeah, I was thinking Martinelli, but then I said Gabriel. Yeah,
I think Martinelli's probably 21 or so, right?
Yeah.
Gabriel, I think is 24. I think, or 24.
Well,
I think he's the same age as Erdegaard. So.
We knew a lot of people knew about Timber as well. So, I felt. Would Sesko be the same level of signing as a Jurriën Timber last season?
I just say
probably.
I don't.
Sesko,
based on what people are talking.
But his build, his physique, he seems to be like a carbon copy of Kai Havertz in his height and kind of physique. So.
You got any worries about that, Gary? That Sesko would be very similar to Havertz in style, height, and approach. And I heard somebody say
maybe a better finisher though.
Set pieces. And Nicholas Jover. Set peaches.
It's Leighton Island.
What are those?
I'll give you that.
I mean, you could let that one stick if you want. They'll run through the season if you want. Set peaches. Hell of a player, Set peaches. Set peaches is a hell of a player. We should get him.
Yeah.
We'll have Tottenham fans talking about Set peaches. You hear about this new player, Set peaches?
I like him, but I don't think we're close to signing him yet. I think down the road. That's what they were saying,
He could
weren't they?
score. He could score 20 goals this season, said Peaches.
Yeah.
Hey, if we score again this season on a set piece, I'm going to say set Peaches. Thank you very much, set Peaches. What a
Why not?
signing.
Why not? We say Gabriel Megalegs, we say Bruno Gummy Bears, and we say
Yeah.
Teabag. Why not set
Yeah.
Peaches? I'm
Why
up for
not
it.
set Peaches? What if Sesko scores against England? All right, by me.
England's defense is not that good. So
No, you see those players, Gary? Not great.
no, like I said, like their window to win, I think something was the last couple of times they had a
All
chance
right. Okay.
to now like like Harry Maguire missing is a negative. How is that? How is that a negative? Like
Slabhead.
he's missing out, and that's a bad thing because they don't have.
But-
They really want to use them.
He's a bit like Danny Welbeck. What I mean is, like, you know, those players that you see them for their club, and they kind of look a bit streaky, but they put on an England shirt, and you're like, why don't they do that for the club? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, why doesn't he do that for us? Does it in England? Doesn't do it for us. And Harry Maguire has a little bit of that about him.
Yeah.
Stable. He does have that bit about him in an England shirt. To be fair to him, but what's happening? Okay.
Oh man,
It's worth checking in.
Well,
Isn't it?
just
It's like-
checking in. He's good.
it's like
He's
one
doing
of
all
them-
right.
making sure.
It's like one of them
making sure he's,
wildlife programs, isn't it? You know, David Attenborough. Here we are. The Lawrence is sleeping in his natural habitat.
See that right there is like go get Timber's brother.
Maybe
man.
that was the
Come on.
mating call of the Lawrence. The traditional mating call.
His twin found it harder to make it to midfield, went to Feyenoord to play, and then now Quinton nearly made Dutch national team as well. That's good. Anyway, we're in the final throes of this thing, Stan.
Quality.
One more time?
Quality.
We go
Yeah,
back
go on.
one more time or
Get
no?
back.
No,
Yeah,
you
well,
just
go on.
oh
All right,
man.
all right. All right, let it lie, let it lie, let it lie.
We can play
Grealish
it-
is a bit of a
we
worry.
can play out with it. So
I'll be ready for the Sunday show in a few hours. Grealish is a bit of a worry, cut from England and not starting as much or playing in City. And to Gary's point, 100 million. You would think if you were a Man City fan and Grealish left this summer, you would think we didn't really see much of that kid. 100 million, but he won some trophies with us, with an asterisk.
No,
But
has
who would you
he?
rather
Did he?
Who would you rather have in your
Yeah.
team right now? Grealish or Anthony Gordon? I'd have Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, probably Anthony Gordon. Yeah, definitely. All right. We've got to quickly mention El Neni. He's left the club. Mo El Neni. We've got to give him the props. The proper Egyptian king from North London. And what a servant for the club. We love him, but it's time to keep going, right? It's time to move on. And Sesh Peaches. It's going to
He
stick.
said that, the reason that apparently he didn't come out for the Lap of Honor because he was just too emotional. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you saw his statement that he put out about how much he loved the club and how much it is
Hey.
part of him. And
What's wrong
he
with
was
being
very-
emotional on the last day of
Not
the
nothing
season?
at all. I mean, as I've always said, and it's probably the last time I'll be able to say it, one of the reasons why I loved him so much was that he was in a team where we had a lot of players that played in the midfield that were supposedly much better than him and better gifted than him. One of those
Yeah.
I would say is Mesut Ozil. But there were times when I would see Mesut Ozil play, and I'm like, you're basically giving me like 40% of what I know you're supposed to be able to do. Sometimes 60%. But if El Neni was only 70% of the player, let's say a talented player like Mesut Ozil was, what I liked about El Neni was that nearly 9 times out of 10 he would give me all 70%.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from a person. You want to
Yeah.
see them giving you everything. So that's why he endeared himself to me so much. And the same goes for Danny Welbeck. Same story. Always
And
gave you their maximum.
Yeah.
And there were players that were more than talented than them that didn't, and were being paid far more amounts of money, and they weren't giving us everything, and that's what was so disappointing.
The annoying thing that some fans will say is he always passed the ball backwards or sideways. I've seen him play the ball forward, look up for
It's a
that
myth.
long pass as
Yeah,
well.
myth.
It's too easy. Too easy to say that he was a side merchant, a side ball merchant, a pass back. He was able to play creatively and move forward. Look, was he everybody's cup of tea? No. Was he the most creative midfielder in the world? No. But as Stan said, and I'll second what Stan said, 100% consistency and level. He always had those levels of that we always look for, and I know Gary looks for
Professionalism.
7 and 8 out of 10 each and every week. You know,
Yeah. No, I do remember screaming at and then he wasn't that he didn't make the forward pass. He didn't make that forward pass, the one that would break, would break the lines. No, but it's not like he wasn't sitting on the ball and couldn't just hit the ball. He could just, and I'm like, dude. So then when he makes the forward one, you're like, that one, it's too late now. Defense has already figured it out, So
1 second, Gary.
So, but as you guys said, he was consistent. You didn't get that many negative plays from him. Enough negative plays from him that you were like, damn. Well, he kind of hurt us. He never really hurt you.
And when
he may not have made you. Yeah, go ahead.
And when he did score, in the words of Seamus, it was always banger after banger after banger.
Yeah.
When he scored a goal, it was like, ooh.
He scored against Barcelona. He scored against Dundalk.
Banger.
Dundalk. Yeah, he scored both bangers. Listen, that'll be noted that Gary did. It was Gary's tone and soothing voice that put Lawrence to sleep. So
sorry.
That'll be noted. No, don't be sorry. It's all good. If next time I'm restless, I'm calling Gary. Next time I can't sleep, instead of the warm milk. What do you drink, right? It's what do you drink when you're trying to sleep? Instead of that, I'm calling Gary.
Ovaltine.
Ovaltine, that's the one. If I'm out of Ovaltine, I'm calling Gary. Gary, talk to me, please.
I'm that bad, huh? Oh man.
No, you're that good.
No, it sounds that bad. I'm trying to be entertaining. You're saying I'm putting you to sleep. Not the same thing.
You're taking it the wrong way, Gary. Completely taking it the wrong way. Anything else on Elneny, Gary?
No. Like I said, I enjoyed having him. I just if he was not going to play as much, then he needed to go in my eyes, right? So that's kind of the thing there.
You had him third on the depth chart, right? Third and fourth.
Yeah, and I think at some point we needed to bring in another player that we would play more. Right? Well, that's what we needed. It was nice to have him around for there's definitely sentimental reasons.
Yeah.
There's club unity reasons for that, but at some point we needed to grow away from that.
Jorginho is the new Elneny.
Is that a dog?
Yeah, but right now he gives you a little bit more influence on the game, right?
Right.
Okay. Sorry, Gary. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Jorginho, at least last season, gave us more than Elneny did, right?
Yeah. Somebody's trying to contact Stan.
That's the crow. Back. I told you about
it's a crow. Holy shit.
Crow,
I think one last thing I'll say on Elneny is that every club needed a player like Elneny, not just
steady
a player
Eddie.
Who could be a steady Eddie, but an influence, right? I think it was Ryan.
Milner.
I think it was Ryan's timeline.
He was our Milner.
Elneny was holding the hands of the kids, and then they grew up to be better than him. You know what I mean? I think I saw that on Twitter somewhere. Might have been Ryan's timeline, but there you go. That's Elneny. He was one of those people that would demonstrate the right way to train, the right way to carry yourself as a professional. We don't know what he's going to do, but I could see him being a coach at Arsenal in the academy or doing something around the club.
For example, I have more fondness for Elneny than I do for Granit Xhaka, for example. I just think that he might not have been a first teamer and featured as much, but I just think he conducted himself so well throughout.
All right, that was Mo Elneny. We'll miss you, but we're moving on, and hopefully we're going to get an outstanding midfielder to come in and take his squad number. I think number 25, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong there. Put my reputation on the line here. Gary, anything else to mention before we go? Did we miss
So
anything?
you talked about City. That's the big story, right?
Yeah, the big story.
Um,
How harshly they're being treated by the established. It's like the new kid in school. He's been bullied by the 6 other kids.
You know what?
who
Maybe
run
we
the
should start
class.
a GoFundMe for them.
yeah,
know,
they're struggling, man.
help them
They're
out.
struggling. They're struggling to buy the next whatever. What is it they want? Whatever
Pele.
play they want to get.
The next Pele.
The next Pele.
The
Yeah.
next Maradona.
Yeah.
No.
We've heard about Seth Peaches. Yep. So that was good. There we go.
Sorry, I was just trying to
Sesko is the one, and hopefully it's going to break pretty soon.
Well,
gotta
yeah,
be-
I think it was supposed to happen before the Euros. I hope that if that's the player they want, that they've done what they can to sell. I don't know why he would go
There is
anywhere
a
else
release
but
clause.
stay.
There is a release clause. You can just activate that
Yeah.
shit.
No, but I think he still wants to make a decision, right? You can activate it, but if the player says, "I'm not coming,"
Yeah.
right?
But
you're
if
just-
you don't activate it, there's no decision to make.
Decision to make. Yeah, and the decision may well be stay at Leipzig.
They're basically
for
saying we want you to come to us and play in the Champions League. What are you saying?
Yeah.
We haven't
what do
done
you
that.
do?
Well,
What do you do?
what I found interesting is I think it was Ornstein said that he could stay with Leipzig
Yeah.
for 1 year to finish up what? Like Arsenal's probably going to give you a 5-year contract. Chelsea will
No,
give
Leipzig.
you what?
Leipzig are offering him another contract, but they want to increase the
What-
buyout.
Wages.
No, there's that, but
there's-
there might be the buyout, but there's like the incentive is that you get 1 more year with us, which to me doesn't like what?
Yeah.
Now, like if
Yeah.
you're like it's either you're going to stay with them for a bit, or like I said, there's other teams that are going to take you for 5 years and whatnot.
Why
With,
would
like you said,
why would
more
you want
challenges.
to increase the buyout clause as well? That's just making it more difficult when it comes to.
I'll tell you.
know,
Yeah, we
moving.
just saw Osterman is going through it. It's like, hello, Sesko, did you not see what Osterman just did? Right, he increased his whatever his worth in terms of contract. Now can't get out.
You make
Right.
it more difficult. Yeah, you make it more difficult for yourself. And I think Holland was wise in that respect. They kept it at 65 million or whatever it was, and City was able to go do it. What was I going to say? Yeah, you have an opportunity. There's only going to be about 4 players coming into Arsenal this summer.
I
and
think
you
the
have
buyout's
an
about
opportunity
50
being
million
one of
euros
them.
or something like that, right? I think
Yeah,
the buyout's
around
about 56
60,
million.
Yeah, 56, something like
56,
that.
something like that, euros.
There's only going to be 4 people joining Arsenal this summer. You could be one of them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know, the third most historic club in the country. Forget about the plastics. Forget about City. Forget about Chelsea. All right, we should leave it there. Stan, Gary, thanks for joining. Lawrence also.
Do you want to check back in? See if Lawrence there. Just an update.
Real quick. Yeah.
Let's see if the Kraken has awakened. That's a no. Okay.
Well, like I said, I
It is
mean,
worth-
it's good
it
to
is
know
worth-
that it's
it's
good
worth-
to know that he's breathing.
Yes.
It's just disappointing that he's not going to say bye to us.
Yeah.
There you go.
Listen,
Oh,
That's
if we're doing,
I've been away from this show too long. It seems I just didn't know like we had you had all this kind of entertainment.
if we're doing this another 10 years, you may see me fall asleep at the helm as well.
maybe in another 10 years, Lawrence will wake up. Who knows? Old fucking Rip Van Winkle.
Listen, I'm very tempted to do it again, but no, that would be just too
No.
much. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
that
yes, that you have been watching Arsenal Fan Circle. Stan and Gary, myself and Lawrence. We will see you on the next one. Thank you, Gary, for dropping in. Stan, for
Thank
being
you.
here. All right.
Pleasure.
We're out of here. Take care, everyone. We'll see you Sunday.